Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the work session for the City of Bel Air Beach, February 19th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Robin Aki.
Here.
Councilmember Marv Beam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Gaddis.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
Here.
Councilmember Rita Swope.
Here.
Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn.
Here.
Mayor Joseph Manzo.
Here.
And City Manager Lynn Reeves.
Here. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very ambitious agenda tonight. We've got 9 topics, and any one of them probably could be a long discussion. So this is a work session, and it's a little less formal. We do still follow Robert's Rules of Order in terms of how we conduct ourselves here, and we still follow the Code of Conduct, but we just have it a little bit more relaxed. So you might hear us using first names and stuff like that, but we try to keep the debate rules similar to how the rules of order call for, which is one person speaking at a time and some order in terms of the individuals who want to speak. If you do want to speak tonight, when the opportunity arises, please come to the microphone here and leave that mic on and address us as a body. With that said, the first item of business is the Finance Advisory Committee report. We have the president of that committee, Rick Schock, and Rick.
All right, good evening. I'm Rick Schock, chairman of the Residential Financial Advisory Committee, and you should all have a copy of the report that we put together. Before I go into this, I'd like to thank our committee members, 2 of whom are here, John Hanzik and John Hayes. Thank you very much for being here and supporting this. We've had a lot of great conversation, we really have, and hopefully we have something that's going to be of use. I'd also like to thank Mayor Manzo, Vice Mayor Gunn, City Manager Reeves, Council Members Beam and Shirley for attending our meetings. The Mayor and Vice Mayor, I think, have been to all 6 meetings. We've met 6 times since December, so we've been rather busy. So, in the interest of time, I've been advised to just present the summary slides. I do want you to know that the entire brief will give the council a background that has led to the summary. We've tried to follow the charter as was presented to us back in November. So the presentation in its entirety is a bit wordy, I know, but necessary, because we're trying to not only put some recommendations forth, but also answer some of the larger picture items that are in the charter. They're more visionary in nature, would be a better way to say it. On first sight, some of these recommendations may shock you, as you are not a part of the discussions. Additionally, this committee is not necessarily in support of any or all of these recommendations. These ideas are just that. They're recommendations to be considered by the council as ways to address the city finances. Okay. So after reviewing the financial data, and again, I would be remiss not to thank Lynn for all the work he did. We have a book. We have all had the opportunity to look at all the financials of the city. And with his help, and particularly that of Vice Mayor Gunn, I think we all got a fairly good picture of what the city's finances look like. And I think actually they're very good, and we'll get to that at the end. But what we settled upon was a number, and the number that we came across was $250,000. We figure that's what we're kind of calling the burn rate, which is kind of the money that we're digging into, transferred in and out of the general fund in order to take care of mainly deferred maintenance items as well as normal maintenance items that need to be taken care of. These are laid out in the capital improvement plan, as you all know, and in accordance with the guidelines set out by the city strategic plan. Both of these plans were presented to us, and we've studied them at great length, and I think we have at least a workable knowledge of what's contained in those documents. So what do we expect to do here tonight? Our expectation is that the council will look at these ideas, review our work, and then provide further guidance to us as to areas you want us to follow up on. We're kind of at a point where we need some direction. We're starting to go a little bit around in circles because what we're going to present to you is kind of the completion of the first stage, and we don't want to spend time and energy going off in areas that the council says, no, we're not even going to consider that. So that's kind of where we're here tonight. So if you would, because you can't see, as I understand, the overhead, in your handout there's a slide that's titled Cost Reduction Summary. Has everyone found that page? You should be approximately halfway through. The first item on there is waste management. Of our $2.7 million city budget, almost $300,000 goes towards waste management. That's largely a pass-through. We charge the residents, pays for the services, and that's the end of that. But we're thinking that maybe taking a look at the services provided could result in some savings to the residents and potentially to the city. Second item on there is Grant First. Our city manager has been taking care of most of the grant work, but it's our feeling that there are probably a lot of grants out there that we should maybe be looking at, and the Parks and Rec Board is one that has certainly benefited from a grant, but we don't think that Lynn has the time to thoroughly search for grants, so we're asking you to consider potentially looking for somebody. It might cost us some money to hire somebody who's an expert in that area to look at money that might be out there, particularly as we face the national flood insurance policies, an election in November, rising waters, all those things. If we can get ahead of that, I think that would be to our advantage. On a smaller end, potentially that could be zero money. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Third item on there is non-departmental. That's what's euphemistically called Department 519. And we discussed that with Lynn, and that has to do with a lot of the operational costs, employee benefits, things of that nature. And Lynn is already looking into that and has some ideas about that, but there may be some money we could reduce there. Law enforcement, of the $2.7 million, as you all are well aware, that's $500,000 for law enforcement. To me, that seems like a lot of money for one officer, even though it's technically 24/7. So we're just asking that when that contract comes up, no one's recommending we go back to a police department or anything like that, nor are we questioning what is done by law enforcement, but we think there might be some money that could be recouped there. So I would certainly think maybe $10,000 to $30,000. Community center mortgages, I'm sure you're all aware, people in the audience may not be. When this building was built and the money was borrowed, there's a prepayment penalty. And with interest rates being what they are and a balance of approximately $1.2 million, right, Lynn, left?
Let's see.
Little, yeah.
1,050,000 with
Okay.
all the interest.
$1,050,000. That's something that could be potentially looked at too, maybe paying the prepayment penalty may save us money in the long run. So then we floated an idea having to do with a capital improvement bond, potentially, fortunately we have a banker on this board. He's not here tonight, but he can speak to this better than I can, but the idea is potentially look at a 30-year bond for $3 to $4 million, which would allow us to take care of all of the deferred maintenance that is out there in today's cost rather than in the out years where inflation would affect them. The next one we have is a League of Cities. Mayor Manzo has explained recently that he's very involved with the League of Cities, and there's some initiatives there that we may be able to partner with. There's some inherent challenges too, but there may be some cost savings available to us by working along with other cities that are in a similar situation as we are. So that's a quick overview of the cost reduction. Then we got one which is maybe a little bit more entertaining, but the first one has to do with parking fees. As everyone here is aware, we make about $90,000 just off of our park, the name's, what do we call the park? Which is it?
Morgan Street.
Morgan Park, thank you. We do have all the beach accesses, and there's some questions about what the real usage of those could be, but certainly between those beach access areas as well as the marina, we think there's clearly money that could be recouped potentially in parking fees. We've had some conversation about leveraging City Hall Marina. The usage of this building is very low, and we think that maybe getting a real estate professional to take a look with open mind and open eyes into what this building really is and what it isn't. I we have to, well, we tend to believe that there's a lot more income that we could gain by working with it. Investment strategies, you all have seen the financials and know the millions of dollars that we have. And of course, investing is always a challenge. How aggressive do you want to be? But we're not sure when the last time we had a financial expert really take a look at our CDs and other monies to see if we're using it in the proper way. The next one is property sales. Have to be determined. I don't really know how much money could be recouped there, but we know we have, I think Mayor Manzo coined the term, the White House back here behind us. We also have other properties that I don't know if there are any long-term plans for, but our committee would suggest that those be looked at because there's an area, there's a lot of money that could be put into the city coffers there. Stormwater fees, we're moving forward with that, so I don't think I need to address that, but that's a huge number. $15 a household is about $140,000, and I think Councilmember Shirley has pushed that forward and it's been picked up on, and I think eventually it's going to be a done deal. One that recently came to light were rental registration fees, and there is a typo on that. If you would cross out where it says $5,000 to $10,000, because we did the math yesterday, by raising the rental registration fees from $100 to $300, we would make $40,000 more in income. And I think $300 is a very reasonable rate. Millage rates, I don't want to get into that. That will become the last resort, but we know there's always an option to raise taxes. Causeway tolls, the mayor's looked into this. We're all dealing with the challenge of the traffic. But we're thinking of the feasibility of putting a non-residential toll on the causeway, which would be nothing but a gold mine, it seems to me. I've lived here long enough to remember when we had a toll on the old bridge, which has obviously been on for many years, but that would potentially be a huge windfall. One of the members mentioned the idea of establishing a city foundation, which would allow people to give to the city in a tax-deductible kind of way. It also would enable us to have a hall of fame, if you will. People that give money can have their name on a wall or on a brick or on whatever they want to do. We know we have a relatively affluent community, and there are probably a lot of people, we feel there are a lot of people that have asked properly, and if they're part of the process and may be willing to help out there. The last one probably gets some chuckles, but we look at this big building we have, look at its utilization, and sometimes wonder why. Don't know what the value would be. I know there's a lot of vested interest in the building, and it looks pretty, but in the world we live in, do we really need this building? Or could modifications be made to it to make it more attractive for other types of usage? So that's those. Lastly, did this a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but the last slide there says, in the pamphlet says charity starts at home. That's one of my mother's statements. But I'm not sure that we communicate our needs in writing to the citizens. I've never received a letter from Bel Air Beach, to my recollection. We all rely on social media, and we assume people use it, but we have an older population. I'm not so sure everybody does. So I think we need to start putting this picture together and letting the residents know what's going on and how they may be able to help. We don't have to pay for everything. There may be realtors out there that could help out, that could come in and work with this building. There may be grant writers, in our midst. We just don't know they're there. So I think we should probably be a little more active in searching them out. Collecting email addresses at every opportunity. I know that June makes it a point to do that at our events, but when I come in and get my decals, no one says, do we have your current address or email? And that might be a way to start gathering those, because the more people know, the more likely they are to be involved. And we know there are a lot of ways people can contribute: time, treasure, and talent. And I think there's a lot of all three of those in our community, and I think we need to be a little more aggressive in trying to recruit that to work with us. And lastly, I put down work to reverse the strategic plan assumption, and this is a quote that residents want to be informed but not necessarily participating. I'm not arguing the accuracy of that, but I think that it's been my experience when you start to get involved and feel like people are listening and the council is attentive, and I believe that we've certainly turned the corner on that. You're willing to step up and do some things in many ways. So that's what I have. I want to reiterate that we've had a number of meetings, 6 meetings. We've had a lot of conversation, so a lot of this might hit you and go, that seems awfully simplistic, but much of it will be explained in the document when you have an opportunity to look at it. And so where we, as a committee, we're going to look for your feedback and say, we think these are some good ideas. These are some recommendations we would like to consider. Now, can you go out and get us some numbers? Because I don't know that it's our job to call banks and ask about borrowing money on behalf of Bel Air Beach, or things of that nature. So that's all I have, except for the last statement that I think the outlook is very, very good. And you know this, but we didn't until we started looking at the financials are very solid. And if you take away that $250,000 or add that $250,000, things are very healthy. So we're very pleased. We looked at all the financials when we saw everything, and we've looked at them, and I think we're very, very fortunate where we stand, because there's some pretty easy fixes to get us on track, and I think the outlook is very bright. So if there are any questions, I'll answer them, or we can move on.
Rick, first, I just want to, I guess this was a idea of mine when I first came in, saying it seemed like an overwhelming amount of financial information that the council had to digest in a short period of time. So I had suggested a finance committee, and at first it really wasn't received popularly with the group here, but then everybody had a chance to go through the budget process, and they agreed that it would be a good idea. Your group, ladies and gentlemen on your committee, have exceeded beyond my wildest expectations in terms of what I ever thought this group was going to be able to do. I knew we had a good group when we put this together, but you folks have really demonstrated what it means to really be an advisory committee. I think on almost all of your meetings. You did an outstanding job. Outstanding, okay? You really dug deeply into this thing. The meetings were held. There was very good back and forth between everyone. You had the benefit of having tremendous expertise on your committee, okay? You had people who knew a little bit from every area. When you put that all together, you came up with a great solution. And because of that, I'm telling you right now, and I'm just speaking for me, I'm not letting your group go away so quickly. I do think that you have the ability to go out and follow up on some of this stuff, and I do believe, and we spoke yesterday, I think this group here now is going to have to give you what we think, digest this, and what's the next most important things that you should be looking into. But I'd like to see some of these ideas taken out to the next step in terms of getting us ready to implement these. I think there's some excellent suggestions here. We have information. Lynn and I just met with the people from the county today, so by our next council meeting, I'll be able to do a supplement to the whole idea of what we can do with this causeway and traffic and stuff like that. It's not going to be a short-term solution, but it may be very well a long-term solution for us. So I'm still pushing for it. So you guys did a great job, and I'm just going to open it up to questions over here and any comments that anyone else has, but I just want you to know that I thought you did an outstanding job, and that was everybody in your committee, okay? Really.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anyone have some comments or questions for Rick?
Just basically a comment, Rick. I'm glad that your whole committee took and looked at what we've been trying to do up here for the past year and a half. And I thank God you went through it, because it substantiates our direction. What Vice Mayor Dennis put together with the strategic plan and our ideas, and I'm glad to see we've got a better direction wise. And that all compliments to city manager and everybody up there. So thanks a lot, really.
No, my pleasure. And again, I want to thank my committee members, because we've had a lot of fun, and we've had some tremendous discussions, and some of that will come out when you read the text. And I apologize, it's a little wordy, but it had to be that way in order to try to answer the questions and also give some bullet recommendations. So.
Rick, I know the answer to this because I was there yesterday, but so that the rest of the council knows, what do you need from us immediately. When I say immediately, you know, within the next couple of weeks so that we can keep you on track. I do not want us to digest this for the next 3 months and then get back to you, because then I think we lose the momentum that you've really put together at this point. So what do you need from us right away, and we'll get on that.
I think I don't think, what we need is a direction, specifically areas you'd like us to further investigate. And then also, I think we need some parameters that we can work with. In other words, I don't know that and I would ask Ron, work with Ron, since he is a banker. I don't know if we, you want me going to Ron and going to, forget which bank he works with, and looking at all the details of a potential bond, things of that nature. So, what authority do we have to reach out on behalf of the city? One, and number two, which areas do you want us to reach out in? So we don't spend time looking at something and then we weren't really serious. I don't mean that in a mean-spirited way. Just, no, we're not really interested in doing that. So prioritize maybe areas you'd like us to function in, and then give us some parameters that we can work under.
Council, I was going to say, Council, how do you want to approach this? Because as I mentioned to Rick last night, I said we could spend the whole night only on this, and we probably should one night, spend the whole night and then give them the direction. But I think they need the direction. Your next meeting is scheduled for March.
I think it's the 14th.
14th.
I want to say the 14th. We wrote that down as a tentative date because we know you've got a lot of other issues to deal with too, but we are planning to meet on that day.
I just think thank you. Your team did a great job with this. I appreciate all the work you guys did. To your question, Mayor, I would suggest we've done this in the past where we just do a laundry list of everything and score them and send it out to everyone to reply back to Lynn with the information. And at least will give us the top items that we think are most important. Maybe take the first 5 or something and give them that to begin to work on and how to proceed.
Do we want to have some discussion on, I think our next work session would be the 3rd week of March, which is beyond this meeting. Do we want to have something special beforehand just to, I like that idea of scoring stuff and maybe just have a meeting, between us. It doesn't have to be an all-night thing, but at least spend an hour or so, go through it, and then at least we can come back and say, here's the priorities, and, here's what, and I think you have to work with the city manager as to where we want to, where the limits are. I mean, we have the benefits of having investment bankers and accountants and people like that on this group, so to me, it seems like that would be, good to have them represent us to the outside and speak on behalf, but that has to be cleared and worked out with the, with the city.
Well, if you could drill it down to a small number, it would make sense that we could just maybe talk about it at the next council meeting and get them, I know that's a lot to talk about at a council meeting, but rather than trying to squeeze another meeting in.
If we're going to go with, if we're actually going to make it an action item, as giving you the direction for that, and maybe have the score sheet, and then we have our discussion there. And Rick, if you could be at that, or at least have some of the people, maybe somebody from your group, be there to answer any questions, and we can.
At the council meeting or at the work session?
Next council meeting, I like
sure.
that idea. We could score this, some people have been, 2 or 3 of us have been to a lot of these meetings, so
Right.
we'll go through it fairly quickly, the others can get up to speed,
Sure.
score this, and then we'll have our discussion at the next meeting, and give you the direction right on the spot, basically, and we're able to do that, so.
Yeah.
I pointed out a couple of things, and the mayor was there, but not everybody. In your charter under the scope, there's 6 and 7. One was to provide.
I knew you wouldn't let me get away with that.
Not much else, but provide a handful of metrics so that, again, this goes hand in hand with communication with the residents so they can see, okay, we're in good shape or we're not. Some stretch goals.
Right.
What's the desired end state 5 to 10 years from now? Do we want to reduce expenditures by X number of percent, increase revenues by X percent? Are we really ready for the melding of the minds here, or do we want, I guess what I'm looking at is, you just provided us a laundry list of things, but I'm looking to you because I want kind of a compartmentalized recommendation saying, this is the committee's top 1 and 2 recommendations for increasing revenue, top 1 and 2 for reducing expenditures. I'm not sure I'm ready to start kind of pushing them in a direction. I would rather that they come forward with hey, these are our recommendations, and then we come together and say, well, this is the way we think it is, and then start horse trading and understanding why they went their particular route, why we went our particular route.
I think that's their direction. I think in our next meeting, we can take that on. We'll limit it to, say, 2 or 3, or maybe say 3 or 4, prioritize them, and then go from there.
I would like to see actually 2 lists. One would be what would benefit Bel Air Beach financially
Okay.
in order.
Okay, all right.
And then next would be another order of what's easy, low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Things that
Yeah,
have minimal impact, but we can go right to them.
okay,
Quick hitters.
Yeah.
fair enough. That makes sense, okay.
I would like to also, I agree with Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn and Councilmember Diaz. I would also like to say I appreciated the comment that you made that maybe we should send out postcards to see what the community wants. So I think we should look at that too before the council makes any decisions on as far as what we're moving forward to, because ultimately it's going to impact them. And I think their feedback is huge. So when you said you've never received one, I do think we need to send out a postcard versus an email. A lot of people have elected not to put their emails because of other reasons it was used for. So they may not be very willing to give them. So
Good point.
I agree that we should send out postcards with the items that you're going to suggest too, so that we can see what they want.
I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I don't see how in a postcard, knowing these items, you're gonna explain investment banking to citizens that have, quite frankly, no idea what we're discussing here. You know, we're talking interest rate and float points and, pooling our assets with other cities and stuff like that. These are detailed financial concepts. In terms of low-hanging fruit, there's not a lot of it. These are complicated. Most of the stuff that has been discussed here is more complicated in nature. So I don't think it's something that, if the purpose of council meetings is for people to come forward with agendas and stuff, I think that this council, we're not in the stage of implementation, we're in the stage of still prioritizing, and you're still in a research stage right now. No one's saying we're redoing the bonds. Lynn and I had a discussion this afternoon. We had another idea come up, that he had suggested, and I liked it. So, I think we're still in the idea phase over here. I don't think we're ready to go to the citizens and say, well, we're ready to remortgage the building or something. I don't think we're at that. These are conceptual ideas at this point, but to try and explain this on a postcard, I don't think you have, this is 1/4 of an inch thick, and it doesn't really explain it. It's an outline. So I think we need a lot more information to give to people, and that would be a packet, to the council meeting. So, but I think you need direction as to what to do next. I agree. I've been at your meetings, and you followed a direction right now, but you need to know where you go with this, because if council has no interest in some of this stuff, then it's dead, and why waste your time? So.
Yeah.
This
We do need to figure out how to communicate with the residents better, though, and I think, people just don't get the word. They just don't. And again, as I put in there, turning around that assumption that people want to be informed but not necessarily participate. We're so fortunate in this city, and not only to have what we have, but to have the residents and the affluence and the skill that is in this city. And we need to somehow reach out, and the more people know, the more likely they are. Now that certainly since some of the unsettledness of the beginning of the year is set down, I think there'd be a lot of people out there that could help out. And we don't get many people coming to council meetings unless there's something that's inflammatory or entertaining to watch. But if they can be a part of it, I think people would participate. At least certainly quite a few more.
As this process kind of necks down a little bit, it might be time for like a town hall, town meeting kind of thing. At the Florida League of Cities, they call it Cities 101. Basically, you open it up to the public, come on in, you kind of paint the picture of, okay, this is how our finances work, this is what we take in, this is what goes out, these are the shortfalls, this is how we cover it, and then start pitching some recommendations out there and see what kind of feedback you get. And just open it up to the public and invite them in.
That might be a good idea. At least we've done it. We've opened it up. Whether they participate or not, that would be their choice.
I agree, but I think if you're going to bring it to the public, you need to give them the information. Okay, you mentioned something today, you talked about tolling the bridge. Now, somebody who's just casually listening to that is gonna go, the mayor is tolling the bridge. Well, the mayor isn't doing that, okay? And the county isn't doing it. And Lynn and I just met with the people for, what, 2 hours today? And that might not happen for 7 years. Okay, so I want everybody to take a deep breath and say, it is a possibility. And I'm not letting it go because I said, do I get to keep that money? And they said, probably. I'm like, okay, good. Let's keep talking, okay? So it's a possibility, but it's not an immediate thing. And I want people to understand that because you put out a postcard or a quick letter and say, tolling the bridge, and people are gonna freak out, all right? There are so many questions that would have to be answered. What would a resident pay? What would the regular person who goes across that bridge pay? You know, they asked me to get buy-in from all the other cities. I'm like, I'm not gonna get buy-in from the other cities. You think Clearwater's gonna agree with that? They're not. So it's, you know, it's a situation where if we have this, we want to make sure we're going out with ideas that we think are viable, that we want to consider, because some of this stuff we may look at and say, you know what, it just doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense to the finance committee, I don't think we need to reopen it to other individuals that didn't, and I'm not saying anything negative in a way here, but they didn't have the detail in front of them to look at it. You know, you've got an investment banker analyzing, you know, percentage rates and doing long-term payback. I'll give you 1 second. And you're not going to pick that up from the audience. There's just no way. You know, you don't have that detail. It's just simple, even if you had the background.
I think if we're, as a recruiting tool though, I mean, if you just, off the top of my head, you had a postcard that went out, you know, do you have real estate experience? Do you have financial experience? Have you been, you know, something like that, and get people asking why. Somehow we've got to get, people just don't know, and I don't know how many accurate emails we have, but somehow we've got to get more people in the loop. That's, I think, where you're going with that.
I think to meet in the middle on everybody's ideas, I would say that a generic postcard saying like, do you have real estate experience, do you have that? We are gonna have a town hall where we're gonna discuss, and you put broad topics, potential increased revenue sources, and don't put details, don't put toll road, don't put details, keep it vague, get people interested, and if they come to participate, great. If they don't care, they don't wanna participate, great. But this way, A, we informed them, B, we didn't incite a fury, and everyone hopefully never had it. We'll be happy.
Yeah. So on record, the mayor is not tolling the causeway, just.
No, I'm not telling you that. But if we do it, I can get money for the city. I might. You know, I mean, again, it's an understanding. You know, you hear something like, "Oh, we're going to sell City Hall." Well, this council can't decide to sell City Hall. We can decide to get it on the ballot, but that goes to the electorate, and people don't know that. You know, but so I want to be careful because I don't want, not that I don't want input, but I don't want misinformed input where people come in, you can't do it. We're not going to do it. You're going to get the final vote on something like that, and there's no proposal to sell this. And where I was maybe in the beginning leaning to selling it, I just had a discussion with Lynn, and there's a whole different alternative that we could consider. So there was a sale leaseback proposal thrown out by your group. Now, you know, I did that when I was in accounting. A lot of people don't really know that concept. It's a complicated thing. So we can discuss it to a point, and I think the input will be good, but these are complicated financial topics, I think, for the most part, you know, what we're talking about here. So I think we still need to get you more, I'm gonna go through council discussion, then I'm gonna come out to audience, okay, just so you know. So I got you coming up. We need to get you some immediate direction, though, I understand, and that's, I don't know that you have time to wait for town halls and everything else. I think you need to know what you're doing at your next meeting, if I'm hearing you correctly.
No, but I think Councilmember Gaddis and Vice Mayor gave us some good marching orders to move forward with. So if we don't hear anything specifically from the council as a whole, I think we know which way to move for our next meeting.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that.
Council follow-up?
I like Jody's idea about getting it, and then, I mean, that's something that we could put together, and, I mean, could Lynn put that together and just send it to them without us having to, like you send it to us, we filled it out, send it to you, you can average it out and send it to them, that way that doesn't have to be done at a meeting. So at least you know where we're focused.
You can score it.
Yeah.
Everybody
That's
good
not,
with that?
I don't think we need another meeting, just say, oh, I scored this one 1,
No.
no, I scored it a 2, you know? And
Well,
discuss it.
we'll
They'll
score
yell
it,
us.
we'll score it, what I'm hearing, we would score it between now and before the next council meeting. At that council meeting, we'll have it as a formal action item, and then, you know, we'll have our quick debate on it here, and tell him, okay, listen, here's the top 3, top 4, and at least you know
I
what we're
think the
thinking.
scoring will tell you the top 3. That, I mean, I don't think us debating it, I'm not gonna change my number 4 to number 1 because somebody, you know what I mean? I'm just saying that if you wanna get them it sooner, then I don't think we need to have a discussion before we get to them.
And how fast would we have a turnaround on that if we wanted to move? I mean, people need time to digest this, who haven't been looking at this. Yeah.
We'll take the last 2 summer sheets, the summer sheets,
Yeah,
and we'll just create a box and have you mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we'll take I'll give you a deadline to send it in, and then we'll total those up, and the priority will be whatever number 1s are, or we'll just score them by the number you put on.
That's fine. And then get it back to Rick. Okay.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
and we'll.
that gives us
do a
plenty
copy
to go
also.
on, yeah.
You're always welcome to come to council sessions too if you
I
have
do.
questions or anything like that, you know that.
Can I ask a quick question? Because when we're doing the scoring, I mean, there are some obvious low-hanging fruit would be the parking meters. You know, that would be obvious, quick, could be changed without too much effort. And also, I think, so that, I don't know how we would show that on the scoring, but then besides us scoring it, I really don't want it to influence, Glenn brought up a good point, you all have the financial expertise. We're just kind of shooting from the hip. We don't know how this is going to affect, unless it's something that simple of changing how much we collect on parking. That's a simple no-brainer if you guys think that's important. I don't see where we have to put a lot of thought into that. But you all have the expertise, we don't. You guys just spent 2 months going through this, we didn't. I mean, many of us attended meetings, but by no means are we the experts, so.
Still, the direction comes from the council, so if you prioritize them, then we'll work with that. And then if we have any, internally, if we say, well, we're not sure about that, I can always get direction and say, okay, well, moving, but Mayor Manzo speaking on behalf of the council, in certain areas, obviously he can do that. This is a priority he wants us to look at. I don't think that's going to stifle us in any way.
I would say just, you can maybe take the information, but don't make that your Bible.
Understood,
Don't make that-
okay.
If you guys don't think that we know what we're talking about, then
Okay.
don't pay attention to it. And I don't think we need to do more than just score it. I don't think we need to have discussion about it, because
I don't think so either. I think
before your meeting, I don't think.
we've done most of the background work
Yeah,
with a lot of help from Lynn Reeves too. No
yeah,
doubt.
you guys come back to us with your recommendations.
Okay,
and then work
okay.
session, yeah, I would think. That's just my feeling, Mayor. I'm
So
sorry.
I'm fine, if we don't need to discuss it, that's fine, but we'll give them the priorities and you take it from there. If you need to come back to us, you know we meet twice a month, so
Okay.
that's easy enough. There was some comments from, or questions from the audience, so
Yeah, I'll add.
stand up here and come up, they will be able to hear you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Rick. And I just add on to what he was saying about the communication. Rita brought it up, it was kind of shut down. I'll give you just some food for thought. Communication isn't send it out, this is the subject, make a decision, show up or not. It really, just food for thought on starting to communicate differently. I don't know what it costs, $700, $750 to send everyone something.
168.
Thank you. And start that way. And if I'm trying to equate it to, if I'm going to the doctor today, they ask you, what's your preference on communication? You might say text, someone might say email, others might say, I'll use your portal, others might say, call me. Start somewhere with a lot of exciting things are happening. We're working very hard on your behalf. I think that's what people were trying to get to on start something. I could see a spreadsheet at City Hall where it's 1,500 people or homes, and you know these people would prefer an email. These people are going to go to our website for updates. If we're getting information out, this is where we spend on the postcard. But start somewhere. It's a good thing that people know all the wonderful meetings, committees, departments, reductions, enhancements. It's a good thing, but the communication doesn't mean only when it means we're having a town hall. you'll get better reception if you start. Just food for thought.
Thanks. Anyone else? Steve?
Steve Marsh, 2250 Donato. First of all, I want to say thank you guys for putting that team together, because that's awesome. Yeah, my whole life as a CEO, numbers never lie. You can always find the answer, right? A few things, I think if you're going to let them rank them, they have all the data, they've done the homework, they've tripped over each other for months, so let them rank them. But I think you need a lot more criteria than one, number two, number three. You know, where's the closest fruit? What's the time frame? What's going to happen? What's the result? Where are you going to get it stopped? You know, is it time, money, and a few other variables, right, as you rank them? And I agree with communication, and it has to be done in a right way, but to bring everybody in when you're not having a decision to make is a bad thing. So I think you need to have one or two decisions for something like that. Now, recruiting everybody, the amount of people in this city, the power, the technology, and the brain power is unbelievable, right? So you guys know my whole thing is I'm marketing Bel Air Beach to bring new technologies in for us. That's my whole premise. We have an amazing city. We just have to figure out how to get everybody else to participate. You know, and maybe it is different committees and making it fun and so forth, but I think what you guys have done so far is awesome, right? Getting the numbers under control. So that's my.
Thank you. Anyone else? Back to council? We're sticking with what we had, or has Mr. Marsh changed your minds? Where are we at? Are we prioritizing? We're letting them prioritize? What I've heard last is that we were going to give a priority list, and it's not binding, just more informative.
If we're going to give them priorities, why did we spool up a committee as a think tank
Give them
to provide us
power.
recommendations?
Excuse me,
I
no
don't-
talking from the audience, okay? I don't permit it for anyone. You're my friend, but don't do it.
So I don't understand the rationale here. Let them work, do their work, come to us with recommendations, and then we do the mind meld, not before. Don't taint their thought process. Let them do their homework, let them do their thing, and then come to us with a recommendation. We will put together our
I'd like
recommendations.
to agree with you on that.
But it wasn't my suggestion first, it's not my question to answer, it's Jody's. But secondly, what I heard from Rick yesterday and today was he needed direction as to what's the next step that they wanted us to do. So that's what the whole idea of prioritizing stuff comes in. My original point was to let them be completely autonomous, and I think we've let that happen, basically. We've attended meetings, but it's been their committee making the decisions. We've thrown our 2 cents in, but by no means have we dictated it. So, Rick, I guess I'm a little confused, because if you need our direction, we'll give it to you, and if you don't, and you feel good, then keep going.
Well, I think in deference to the council, we wanted to present it this way. But we're more than happy to be told, hey, you guys bring back a recommendation, you do your prioritization and go from there. I'm perfectly fine with that. But we didn't want to overstep our bounds, particularly in the early stages of this. So we're more than happy to do that, and we will do that if that's your direction. Go back, make it happen, bring the recommendations forward, the way you see them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we rock on. It'll work.
Maybe we should do it this way. We put our priorities together, they put theirs, and then discuss where the two meet in the middle. You know what, they're looking at it without our eyes, and that's what we told them to do. So they went through the whole thing as we have, but we have a little bit different view because we talk about a lot of different subjects. So personally, I'd like to see what their view is, just to see what they come up with, and then put ours next to theirs and see if we're in line.
Yeah, I mean, put a little meat and a critical thought behind it. Why is that the number one priority?
Absolutely.
Cost, schedule, performance, whatever, and we'll say, well, wait a second, that doesn't apply because of this, this, and this. Based on what you know, that is a great recommendation, but we have a different perspective on it, and we'll put the two.
And quite frankly, I think we could have done that tonight, but we didn't know that would that be appropriate for the relationship of the committee to the council, so we wanted to put them out there. But we're happy to take that back, and
We
we'll
bring it to an end.
proceed in that manner.
Council, we're good with them making the priorities. They'll come back to us. If you know what, this is a very receptive group, and many of us have attended it. If you have priorities or you want to put your 2 cents in, write them a note, an email, a letter, go and visit them in person. You can get your input in, but it'll be pretty much like what everybody's nodding their head, it looks like yes, I don't see anybody saying no, so go forth and we'll get back in touch with you if we have any issues we want you to focus on. But it's just, when you're hearing something from a member here, just understand you're hearing it from a member. They're not speaking on behalf of anyone, just but themselves. We're all good with that?
Yes.
Item concluded? Okay. Park and Rec Board, Jim.
On a personal note, I think the finance committee has done a terrific job, and I personally want to thank them as a citizen of the city. So let's go on to the schedule that the Parks and Rec Board has laid out. I basically gave a brief outline of here's what I'm looking to get from the council at the regular meeting. Some approval for some of these events so we can start getting them on the calendar and getting them rolling. They want to have in July a beach party at Morgan Park. Of course, they want to do the Halloween trunk or treat again. Music in the park in June. They want to do a holiday celebration with a tree lighting ceremony in November. And the city will vote on maybe somebody, a citizen who's done the most like or done a lot of volunteering within this city and let them light the tree. That was, by the way, I just want to make sure that credit goes out for that suggestion to help me out here, the one that does our newspaper. Wayne Ayers, that part was his suggestion, was lighting the tree. Having a citizen, outstanding citizen do that. We still want to do the Festival by the Sea. We want to do that one in November when it's cooler out. That is our big thing. The board is looking at trying to put together a 5K and May 3rd. That was Bert Serafian's idea and his wife, and they seem to think that they can keep the majority of it down through the neighborhood and not even on the street. So it's something, again, I'm just throwing it out there, and these are things I want you to mull over and come back with some feedback for me and so forth. I do have a park board meeting this Friday, so if any of you are available to maybe even come then, that would be great. Fashion show with the tea for ladies in January. It is actually a pretty good money rate fundraiser, so it would help support our other events within the city. The other thing they wanted to talk about was maybe each time we do an event, have some kind of fundraiser for some kind of charity. You know, one of them threw out there when we have a food pantry down the way. If you bring canned goods and donate, and then we'll do a run over to the food pantry and drop them off. There was Councilwoman Shirley suggested, I can't think of the name of the group, I'm sorry.
Shepherd's Village.
Shepherd's Village. So we had talked about it because our board each kind of has their own little favorite charities. Mine is the children stuck in the system without homes, forever homes. So if we all chose each event as a way to raise some kind of funds for them, part of that goes to them, or bringing in donations like, the Sheriff Youth Ranch has, where they do a shoe drive every year for the kids. I donated to myself several times. So if we could just do those kinds of things, like bringing in shoes, bringing in canned goods and things like that, I think that's us also helping to get back into the community, we're hearing that sometimes we don't look into the fact that even though we're going to have these events and they're going to be self-sufficient, and they have historically, I still have mine left over that we never spent last year, about $1,600.
It's $11.89.
$11.89. Okay, I have it $11.89. We haven't even spent last year.
Not
And
counting
I already have the
exactly.
trophies for the car show already, so that's $5 a nameplate. That's my expenses for that. But and Councilmember Caddis is going to do the music, so I don't have that expense either. But when we're talking about that, we can do these and use these as fundraisers for other things that that we want to do either for the parks or for the, to put to the pot, basically, for other events within the city. Now, one I haven't thrown out to my board yet, but I was approached the other day, and I just want to throw this out there. If you put it on your list, I'm sure my board won't have any problem with this. They want to do a Veterans Memorial Service on Memorial Day. So I just want to make sure that that is on the list when you start thinking about these things. And I will get my board's approval and definitely tell you if they approved it or not on Friday, when I come into the next council meeting. Okay, so the car show is on the 22nd, March 22nd. So far, I have the antique truck coming, the Sheriff Department Humvee coming. I have 3 sponsors already for it. And then the Wounded Warrior Flight, is that how you say it? The Flight of Honor, the Flight of Honor? Honor Flight coming, and that is our one charity that they're just bringing in, and they're coming in and having a table there. So that's moving along pretty good. I don't foresee any problems, and if the council has any questions on that, I'm open to hear that, and then I want to go into something else I need to address.
You want to take questions at this point, then
Yes,
go back to the rest
please.
of the presentation, Council?
I have one. Back to the whole communication thing, and since Mr. Marsh had stated it only cost about $168, you said, to do a postcard. Do you feel like it would be beneficial for the Park and Rec Board to know exactly what the citizens would like to see out of all these events? Maybe they have interest in something else versus like a fashion show or tea or something. I'm just asking whether you would feel like it's beneficial to ask the citizens what they are looking for.
Well, last year, before we proceeded with the events we did go with, we actually already did a survey with the citizens. There's only a few that are different than the original outline that we had. So we're not straying from what we originally did at all. And as far as communication goes, I think as a city as a whole, as the council, as members of every committee, we should actually do an all-out email campaign. Anybody you talk to in the city, see if they're on the city email. Anybody you pass by, any new people that you meet within the city, see if we're on the city emails. I mean, I've been actively recruiting emails. Just recently I turned in 4 more. So if every time you talk to another citizen or you're at an event with their citizens, I mean, just take the time and ask if they're on the email, because every time we send out an email, it makes a world of difference. I had several people that didn't even know that we were doing events here, and when they got on the email list, they started attending the things. So a couple of them started coming to council meetings, though. So I think it will do a world of good. My other point here is that if we don't continue to actively try to reach out to everybody, then we're actually just going to have a closed group of people doing this, doing that, and it's not going to be opened up to the whole community. So we actively do want to always be reaching out. Anybody else?
Would it make sense to have a comment card after the event, so people that do attend that might be the way to handle that, is to hand out a survey card, and what other events would you like to, have a closing, what other events would you like to see, and have them either turn it in or self-address and they can mail it right back to Patty or something like that. So, I mean, that way we're not,
Right.
you're not opening up with, let's change everything that we've got planned this year, but it would be, let's look at what else we can do next year. Here's the upcoming events, and what did you think about this one, and is there anything else you'd like to see?
Right, and we could do that too, is after the car show.
Right.
Okay, because that one's already council approved, so we could actually put that in a newsletter. Hey, we have this many attendees, this happened, and this is what the Park and Rec Board has planned for the coming year, and anything that you think that might be a good addition to this list.
And I think just in
Reach
general,
out and let us
anytime
know.
we have residents fill out anything, how do you like to best be communicated with? You know, is it email, is it phone call, is it, so we can start gathering information, because I think anytime we get that feedback, somehow documented, it would be nice to have that.
Right, right.
Because I don't think everyone has an email, as much as we like to think that.
I agree. And you know, the thing of it is when we go around the city and as members of this community to do different things, talk to our neighbors or whatever, you know, you can talk to a neighbor you know is on the email and say, hey, do you have any of your friends that live in this community? Are you sure they're on the city email? So you can pass it on in other ways.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, conversation goes a long ways. Hey, if they don't want to call the city hall, pass it on to me and I'll pass it on. And that's what I did with a couple of them, actually. You know, they just didn't want to take the time to call city hall, and they passed it on to me and I forwarded it on. So you know, we can be actively increasing those numbers, those email numbers, if we work on it as a city, as a community.
Can I make a comment on communications? Communications is number 4 goal for the city. And it's an open objective on the city manager's list of things to do. We haven't cracked the code on this thing because the issue you run into is that email list becomes a public record. And guess who gets it? Vendors get it, and all of a sudden you're inundated with emails. So my thinking is, before you start volunteering other people's email addresses to the city's email list, I would make sure there's a disclaimer attached to it that they understand what's involved before you volunteer your friends or neighbor's email address to the public record for the city.
Right.
It's an issue that we're trying to poke and probe and find a loophole to increase participation in the two-way flow of information. But I'm just throwing out some caution to the wind here before we just go on a wholesale campaign to just grab whatever emails we can and put people's email addresses out there. I mean, some people have specific email addresses that they give out because that's how they filter their spam and stuff. But other people aren't quite that way yet, and you start putting their personal emails out there, and all of a sudden, you've got some issues.
Right, I agree.
Valid point.
Throw that caution.
I will say this with communication, since I'm so close to you and I hear and see pretty much everything that goes on with these park sport events. Let me say this the right way. There's been a lot of communication, and I don't want to go through all the detail, but there's been a lot of negative communication. So what I'd like to see, because I know there's people that listen to this, make it positive communication. They can email you, and I see people nodding out there, and you should be nodding because you know I'm right on it, okay? You have a suggestion. I saw that there was some social media stuff, and I'm proud to say social media seems to be being used for much better things these days, at least the ones that reflect Bel Air Beach. And somebody was suggesting a boat parade. You know, that idea never even crossed the idea threshold of your group, and then all of a sudden it started getting considered, and I don't own a boat, I don't know the first thing about doing a boat parade, but it's something that is up for consideration, and I understand you've had discussions on it. That's the way to do it. Not on social media though, write to you, you've got an email, or write to City Hall, let people know, come to a meeting and say something. That's where I think the input can be received by your group, and I don't think there's any idea that's bad. Other cities do some of these things. Again, we're not, this misconception, this ongoing nonsensical misconception that we're trying to attract tourists, this is to have something to do in your city. It reminds me of Seinfeld. What do you do, Mr. Costanza? Nothing. What do you aspire to do? Nothing. Is that what you want your city to be? Or you want to say, hey, you know what? Move to Bel Air Beach. We've got a fashion show for the ladies in January. We've got a car show for the guys in March. We've got a festival in November. That's what real cities do. Or you want to be nothing. So if you've got ideas, bring them to this board. They don't bite. They warmly receive them. Bring them to anybody on council. Bring them here, and we'll get it right to the mayor. I'll get them to June. Don't worry. And we'll, your ideas will be considered. But I think, take input from whomever will give it to you, obviously. But the lines of communication have been always open, and people are welcome to come to your group or come to this group at any point in time and come up to that podium and speak during the 3 minutes. They can do it.
That's totally correct. In fact, that I created a city email to be used strictly for this. So you know, when we send out even newsletters about events, I don't have a problem when the city sends out an email about the events coming up, if they throw in my email there, I have no problem with that whatsoever, because believe it or not, I might even get some volunteers out of that, so, you know, I might be able to take advantage of that if, you know, when I'm talking to them on the phone or something, so that, you know. Now, as far as the boat parade goes, yes, I'm actively working on trying to put together a boat parade. I will heavily depend on the people on the council and the committees in the city to participate in that and basically be broken up in the line of the boats. When we do it, I'm actively looking at a boat captain from Indian Rocks. He does theirs. He knows these waters very well. He does theirs every year, and I've been working with the Park and Recs person over there to try to make this happen, because when I called her the other day, she's like, you did the right thing, because you actively have to start this now. So that's what I'm doing, and I am working on it. It's an information thing. I told her right up front, I don't have the approval from the council yet on it, but I'm not looking to get the approval for that one yet until I have all my ducks in a row. Because quite frankly, if I don't think I can handle it, or we can make it happen, I don't want to attempt it.
So you're asking us for approval for all of these 8 items for the next council meeting, is that what you would like at this
Right.
point? Okay.
And
So
then if you have any other input to it or takeaways from it, okay? If you could
Patty's
give it to
laughing
me.
because she knows what's coming next. Can we make this an agenda item that will approve these 8 items? It can be done in group, and we'll have our discussion, open it up, and approve all, some, part, whatever we're going to do.
And we just want to always reiterate the fact that in an event, if something we were going to do in that event, we don't have the money for it, that part of the event will be eliminated. So I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. I still want, my goal here is to make these self-sufficient. I don't want to be dipping into the city's treasury at all for this. So,
You said you had another area to cover?
yes, I do. I want to
Go to that, I just want to make sure, any citizen comments on this topic before we get to the next one? Yes?
I'll find out Monday, later this week or next week. I'll come back with a solution to the next meeting, how we can communicate effectively.
Okay.
Cost effectively, without using people's personal information.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, you understand the limitations we have with, the
Right.
Sunshine Law and the Open Public Records Law makes that email fully, and anything we use, text, anything like that.
I'll
So,
find us a solution.
please. Okay. I see no other comments. Jim, continue.
I'm sorry, I've got one.
I was gonna say go, and then I have
Okay.
one.
The one thing that I'd like to see is firm dates on this calendar. I don't think it really matters what dates you pick. Somebody's always going to not be here. But as long as it's not conflicting with a major holiday or a major event in this area, just give us some dates. Give us something to vote on.
Well, I did give you some firm dates. The board wasn't ready to give complete firm dates, for the simple fact is, we have to get with the city manager and on his schedule, and here's the other thing too. Some of these can be done on Sundays opposed to Saturdays. How often do you have hall rentals on Sundays? Very seldom. So my goal here is, if the council is okay with this, is to try to have the majority of these on Sundays. Okay, so we're gonna attempt to not possibly cut into revenue for this city as well. So when we do these events, so just something to keep in mind as well. So, and I don't know if you all are good with that. Sunday afternoons, when we plan these events, not first thing in the morning.
I agree, though. I think firm dates would be, I mean, as close as you can get. If you think it's going to be in the month of October, fine. But if you can pin dates, I think that helps, because it allows everyone to coordinate
Right.
everything that needs to be coordinated, and it also allows us to see if we're in conflict with any other cities or other events.
So, well, they weren't, at that time, weren't wanting to give complete full dates. So here's my question to the council. Would the council be okay if I gave in 2 dates for each event? Like, because you always have to have a rain date anyhow. So if we give 2 dates, would the council be okay with that? Within the same, like a week of each other?
I've got to be honest with you, it doesn't It doesn't bother me one way or the other. Like I said, everyone is not going to be able to attend
Right.
everything. And somebody's always going to get left out or not be here.
Right.
Uh,
And I can only-
and we trust you, and I think that more than likely, putting it back on us is just delaying the final decision, and that's what you're there for.
Okay.
Does
Okay.
everybody feel that way?
We have to give them approval. I mean, we said in the beginning that council would approve the events, so we can't do it tonight, so that's.
No.
Maybe to make this
Just what I'm saying is
consent.
come back
Yeah.
with
Okay.
firm
Yeah.
dates, and then we'll vote on it, if everybody's good with that. And one more thing, and then,
No, you're fine, that's exactly what I was gonna
Okay.
say.
The next thing that I'd like to see, and I think that this is something that either it needs to be mounted outside, but also like a calendar that's all the time there, so that it has nothing to do with City Hall, but just what's happening in Bel Air Beach, or possibly just a calendar that's just always updated and it's right there on the homepage. Something that just shows, oh, I'm going to be here in March. I'll plan for that, because if you spring it on them at the last minute, they don't have time to plan.
So you're talking about outside the door, there's a cork board there, or you're talking about on the homepage for the
I'm
city?
thinking somewhere where people will get the information. We're talking about communication. This is
Okay, so
another.
how about both? Would that, you guys be okay? All right, when we talk about the dates, my board asked me to come to you all for that. So if you guys are good with us doing it, I'm all in. But I have to come to you with what they asked me to come to you with. So keep that in mind. So, all right.
No, that's exactly,
Okay.
I was gonna say, if we can just get a list that we can look at, and we know, you're not reading them off to us, and we're trying to write down everything you said, and I'm like, oh, I missed half of what you said, so that, and I think Dave, to Dave's point, I think just a community bulletin board with an activities board, I mean, I hate to say, make it sound like we're in a nursing home, but really, that's, something like that. An activities board.
I was up there.
Feels like that sometimes.
Anything else?
No.
All right, so let me move on to my next little topic. Okay, and that would obviously be the grant.
A point of order here. We're still on item number 2 on this very, very ambitious agenda tonight, and this really isn't a board issue, is it? Is this a board report? Can we table this for a no fooling work session? Because I think this is one of those topics that are going to generate a lot of discussion. So,
I know what you, I'm not, hang on before I rule on the point of order, because we didn't put time limits on what we're going to do here, and I realize we have an
Well, then
ambitious.
I'll make a motion to table. And it's non-debatable, it goes to a vote.
A good second.
Second.
Oh, Patty, let's call it by person.
Wait, clarify what we voting for, to table it?
To table
Yes,
the
table.
discussion on the grant for the Parks and Rec, is that the topic you were going to bring up, right?
Actually, no.
Then,
Withdrawing it? Continue.
So I've been mulling this over, and I would like to do a campaign to raise money strictly for upgrading our parks. Just an active campaign to reach, nothing to do with this grant. Nothing to do with the grant, okay? Just reaching out to the citizens, hey, how would you be interested in buying a park bench or repainting the tennis court, or, we do have a lot of people that might want to put something in the city that they can take pride in, okay? But I would like to see us actively look at raising some funds for the park. That's it. With the hopes that we again, just like the events, we get outside funding for it. We don't, we earn the money for whatever we want to do, and that's where I'm coming at. If the council would please at least think about this and let me know at the council meeting, what it entails is basically having the city attorney draw up something that this is the letter that I'm gonna ask for money for. If you're interested in sponsoring any part of the park, a park bench, a light, trees, anything, at any one of the parks, okay? You can donate to the city X number of dollars. And that's what I'm looking to do. And it's
Are
nothing.
you looking to do this personally, or is your group looking to do this?
Actually, we had spoke about this as a group, of trying to raise funds for the parks. Yeah, we had spoke about that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. You have nothing else, right? You ready for council questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, if this is something that the Parks Committee wants to do, could you put together a plan and bring it to us? Before we
Absolutely.
start paying it?
But before we went through all that work, I wanted to see if there was an interest.
Yeah, and we wanted like a written proposal before.
Maybe prices.
Yeah, I mean, with, like, if you're talking about selling a bench, how much does the bench cost, would it have a plaque on, those sorts of things, kind of, a complete laundry list of what you're thinking, but in an organized format that's presented to us, so there's not this discussion back and forth. We can look at it and go, okay, yep, we can approve that, or we can approve part of it, or something like that, but something to just bring it, spearhead it.
And just to, this can be like an open campaign, so it doesn't have to have a time period like from January to March. This could be an ongoing thing once we create it. So anytime we need to reach back into that campaign and try to reach back out into the community and get more money, say for something else that we see that we needed, that we didn't think we needed before or whatever. So if we have already created this program, it's gonna already be in place to actively seek future revenue too for the parks.
And just a recommendation, when you're looking at like prices of bench, I would say try to look in some of those sustainable, like the ones made out of milk cartons that are gonna last for years and not wood that's gonna rot in a few, because it will go longer and you won't have to replace it in 5 years. And it'd be better for the environment.
Correct.
I would also like to say, we might be careful about doing this prematurely. The Finance Committee has put in their suggestions to even sell the building. So if we start going out looking for people to donate money, thinking they're going to have something here and then turn right around and sell it, I mean, we could be opening up something we don't want to open up.
That's actually not correct. The building is independent of the park. The park was granted to us from the state of Florida. It's under grant. But I'm going to make a request now to you, Patty, based on what I've heard here tonight and some of the recent correspondence from citizens. Okay? We have a $200,000 grant on the line, and now I have a person that's going to go out and grovel for money. Okay? And I want to know what the restriction is on this park. And I want to know what it's going to take to buy it back from the state. And this question's been asked during the planning board meetings, so I would like to see the grant for which we received the rights to this park. Now, I'm going to find out what we have to do, because the citizens of this city can make a decision. Contribute to the park, accept a grant, not accept a grant, that's fine, we'll debate this in the future. Send notices to everyone you want, but then the option will be to buy that back, and then if necessary, wrap it up with the sale of this whole building. That's another option, and I want to look into that. We need to look into every option if we're going to look into options, not just the ones we like. So let's take a look at what this is, because if we don't want parks in the city, or we don't want usable parks like this, we don't have to have them. We'll go with what the citizens want, not a problem. Okay, I'd like that, if we could, maybe for this next meeting, or whenever she's going to make this proposal, to go out and start soliciting funds. Because maybe we just do away with the park entirely if that's an option. Turn it back to the state.
This was kind of the tangent I was trying to avoid. The Park and Rec Committee is our part of the council brain labeled Parks and Recreation. You guys are the brain trust when it comes to Parks and Recreation. So when you guys think up an idea, do your homework, put together a recommendation, come to the council and say, look, we're recommending we do this, and for this reason, and this reason. And if we wanted to just have 4 items on a work session, this would be a perfect collegial body to do that right now, but we've got 9 items on this thing right now. We're still on number 2, and it is now 7:15. So what I'm saying is exercise that command authority we've given you in the Parks and Recreation Committee chairmanship, and get your body together, come up with some great ideas, lay it all out for us, and then you come forward and say, here it is, we recommend we do this for these reasons, and/or we put it on a work session, and we can devote some time to it. But, man, tonight's just not the night to do that.
Well, trust me, I don't want to be here any longer than any of you, but I don't think it's necessarily fair to limit one and not the other. So, I mean, if the next presenter goes on too long, are we going to point of order him in the middle to stop because this is getting long? I'm just saying we need to be fair to everybody and let's not pick.
Okay, let's just stop this now. I run these meetings, and I'm not accepting the point of order to stop this stuff. Mr. Marsh, I've asked you twice.
I'm just talking to myself.
Okay, please. Okay, the last presenter was given 45 minutes, and I've been with June when she's taken unbelievable rations of garbage from people in this city and from people on this council for the work that she's done. Don't make size, okay? So she comes to us because she's afraid to make decisions on her own because people on this council are going to sit here and beat her up. That's why. So I'm with in agreement. Come back to this council with your proposal for the next meeting, and you will get a decision on it. Okay? And in the future, if that's the way this council wants to see it, then bring the proposal and we'll just put it right straight on a councilman thing. I did not make this agenda. It's made by the city manager. They put 9 items on. It's going to be a long evening. If you need a break, Mr. Reeves stepped out. I have no objection to anyone else stepping out and taking a short break, whatever you have to do. But you're the one who said if you don't have time to serve, don't serve. So we're going to go late, and I'm going to let everybody be heard. I have a lot to say on the next item, and there's more items after that. So I'm not calling timeouts. And if you want to put 15-minute limits on these, then let's put it on right now. We'll put 15 minutes on everybody. I have no problem doing that, but we will not get through this agenda. We have 1 meeting a month. I said let's have more, so that's it. Do you have anything else, Jim?
I just want to do it in closing, okay? When you talk about the property values in this city, okay, one of the big key things that realtors look for when they try to sell a home, we want to be a premier city, okay? If we want to be a premier city, we have to have attractants. We have to have those things that attract people to want to be in our city, to stay in our city. And parks are basically what we have. That's what we have as a city. We don't have businesses. We don't have medical facilities. We have parks. Okay? So the first thing that a realtor is going to do, because we don't offer those things, other things, is they're going to bring somebody. I've already witnessed it. The city liaison witnessed it at the same time. Okay? Realtor came in and said, we said, well, we're shutting the park down for an event. He says, I'm only going to be a few minutes. I'm a realtor. She's interested in buying a home in Bel Air Beach. Why is she interested? Where do you bring her? Right over to see the park. To see the park. So when we talk about these things, and we talk about trying to raise our values, and when you raise values of our city, of our homes, you're also raising revenue for our city. So just keep that in mind. So when we try to do investments, let's just think about that. Thanks.
Thank you, June. Thank you to your board for everything you guys do in the face of unbelievable nonsense sometimes, okay? Mr. Marsh, you're next. This is a discussion of the block safety ALPR system.
I'm speaking on the last, sorry. We had to speak, right? On that, what you spoke about.
We closed that item, but go ahead. If you will reopen it, that's fine.
Is it closed?
Well, I didn't ask for city comments because there was objection. Go ahead.
Kind of a couple of things which were roundabout.
Speak to the mic.
I'm Steve Marsh, 2250.
Oh, Steve got pushed the mic.
Donato, Durham.
There you go, perfect.
So I bought 6 properties in this city. I still own 3, and not one person has asked me about a park. This is called Bel Air Beach. It's called the Beach. So parks are part of it, but it's called Bel Air Beach because we have an awesome beach right up there. And that's why people move here. So I'll just make this simple. If you can fix up the current parks, I'm in agreement, okay? We can get money from people. I will help you source it from China. I have 22 years doing business in China. I speak Chinese. I can help you source it. But for us to spend $200,000 on a new park, we will be the second largest fiduciary in the state this city has ever made in its history. This building being the first. Thank you.
Have we closed this issue on Parks?
Well,
Would you like-
is there anything else for the citizens? Any other citizen comments? Back to council. Any other comments?
I have.
Yes.
We're talking about grants then for the park. We opened this up. We haven't answered the mail yet on this grant. Specifically, one, justification of the needs for this thing. Nowhere have I seen any data of who's using this or what who benefits and why. If you keep throwing the strategic plan at this, the premier city, whatever, if you go back and you look at the strategic plan, it is resident-centric. It is not bringing in people from Largo or Clearwater Beach or whatever to enjoy our parks. It's resident-centric. If you look at the mission statement, if you look at the goals, it talks about residents. We have not answered the mail yet on the option of cherry-picking the grants. We asked for that earlier, whether or not that was possible, and we still haven't gotten bottom line, itemized alternatives for what we could get for $50,000, what we could get for $75,000, or $100,000. We haven't seen any bottom line or answered mail on that. We haven't seen the bottom line on what the recurring costs are in the out years. We're going to spend $200,000 one time, but nobody's produced the number to tell us what it's going to cost out of the city coffers to maintain those improvements over the next 20 years. Another thing, how does this weigh against the other capital improvement priorities of the city? This body has an obligation on an annual basis to sit down and review the assumptions and the capital improvement priorities. We have not done that to date. Okay. I just sat in on the Planning and Zoning Board Committee talking about these things today. And guess what? They came up with a couple of great ideas today that could, for some seed money, maybe in the range of $180,000 to $200,000, could produce revenues in the realm of $3,000 a month. So let's weigh that against investing $200,000 and having to pay on an annual basis to maintain those things rather than produce income streams for the city. We've got a lot of mail to answer before we start just saying, hey, we want to be a premier city, we need to improve our parks. That's a very anecdotal thing, and I've run into a lot of residents on the other side of the street saying, wait a second, I have never even utilized those parks. Why are you going to spend my money to improve the parks when I got streets and valley curbs crumbling in front of my house? And there's other situations, I got telephone poles leaning in the major streets and arteries. There's a lot of things that we can spend money for and or use that money as seed money to produce revenues and income for this city. Show me the reason why we need to do that and who's going to benefit from it. That's all I'm going to say at this point. We left it open.
Yeah, and I'm going to close it at this point, and here's how I'm going to close it. Mr. Reeves, when approximately did we receive notification of that grant? Was it back in November?
Yes.
Okay, it was November, as I recall it. So we have been having this, and I agree with Vice Mayor, and only one thing that he said, that this thing's been out there for quite some time, okay? It's time to bring this to conclusion, because I believe you need an answer from us, June, am I not mistaken? June, okay, I remember my dates. And we're letting it go, we're kicking this can down the road, and now we got residents want to organize the world, organize it. Bring them all in, and I would like, for the next work session, and I don't care how we go to midnight, let's put this on as one of the items. It is time this council does this hard thing. And it is not the Park and Recreation Board's job to do this. This was the city, and this city council voted. Okay, maybe you didn't vote for it, Mr. Gunn, but the city council by unanimous, I was here that night, and I made the presentation, having just been appointed to the Parks Board. They made the presentation, and they convinced this council to tell the city manager and Kyle, the city liaison, to go forward. They put an awful lot of work in it, and I don't think we're showing them the respect that they deserve for all that work that they put in it. So it is high time that this council get down to this, and let's ask these questions, and let's start it in March, because he needs his answer for June. That gives us 3 months, 4 months for the lobbying, for the economics, for the metrics, and everything else we want to do. We're not building new parks, folks. We're adding a bathroom to the park so people don't crap on our property. That's what they're doing right now, okay? That's what's happening. Talk to the DPW people, what they have to clean up outside. We're not adding a new park. You still have to maintain that park. But let's have that discussion at the work session for the next time. And I think we need to, well, everything that the Vice Mayor, I do agree, does need to be addressed. That all needs to be addressed. But that comes from the City Council, from the City Manager, and yes, the Parks Board should have their input into this. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? So please, let's bring that up for the next thing. And please, if we don't want to be here till midnight, let's not put 9 detailed items on the, meeting agenda. We can split this up into 2 work sessions so that they're more manageable. That's certainly workable. Okay, finished?
I just want to say that when you guys are going to try to go out and get grants for other things within the city, just remember, if since you brought this up, if you don't take this grant, you've lost face. And you put this man and his staff through a lot of work for nothing. And it doesn't look good for this city if we don't at least try to take some part of it, okay? I mean, because we're second in the state getting this grant. It's almost unheard of to get that kind of money given to us. Now, I heard another city got money for undergrounding. How many $1 million was that?
$8.9 million.
$8.9 million in a grant. So think about that when you weigh the scales of a $200,000 grant to possibly $8.9 million you could get towards undergrounding and other infrastructure issues we have within this city. Just think about that when you try to shoot this grant down. I'm going to end this on the fact that at no other time will I be doing anything else than representing these parks. This is my job. I was voted to do it, and I will continue to do it, whether I get beaten up about it or not. It is my job to represent these parks and anything that goes along with it. Thank you.
Thank you, June.
I'd like to speak since she was.
The city, the county, we have to close the comments on this. We don't come back to it, Steve. Once we
She
just.
gets back to it?
No, she's the person doing the presentation. So we don't keep going back and forth. In fact, quite frankly, during a work session, we don't even have to take citizen
Okay,
comments, but we
nobody's
do.
face when you make mistakes.
I'm sorry?
Nothing, I don't want to speak out.
Well, you are, and you're actually speaking out of order for the 3rd time. So with that said, we're now on your topic, which is to discuss the flock safety ALPR system presentation by resident Steve Marsh.
All right, all you guys know me, I'm pretty straight. I don't work for anybody, nobody oversees me, I don't report to
Steve,
anybody.
excuse me, is
Yeah.
that mic on?
Okay.
This way they have a good recording.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
report to nobody except me. I'm doing this to help the city. So I think some of you know me. I was involved in the undergrounding for the BEI. I was the one that did the final negotiations on the solar lighting on BEI, which got us the solar lights for the city, which put us all over the newspapers in this area, if I'm correct. So I just appreciate if you listen to what I have to say, and let's look at what we can do together. So first, I want to go back to Bel Air Beach as a marketing name. We are a uniquely situated city. We're small or high profile. So a lot of people will bring their technology in here at a discount or sometimes for free to be able to show the rest of Pinellas County or the state of Florida or the United States how that new technology is implemented into a city and use that data, right, to sell other cities. So I'm trying to do that for technologies, and I will look at very high-end technologies, things that are a little bit, some of people have never heard of, right? So what we'll talk about tonight is a little security system for our city, and then there's AI streetlights, which we can use in artificial intelligence light out here to help us with the traffic flow, which Lynn deals with every day. And then there's stuff for all of our marine and channels for security. So there's a lot of things in the pipeline. I'm truly just going to see how the city responds to something like this to decide if my time is best spent here or at home with the gin and tonic. So, sorry. So, has everybody gotten one of these yet? Did you get one? You get one or not? You guys got one?
Yes, they're in our packet, yeah, we have it in our packet.
So, let me send these guys. So, you know, if we look at our strategic plan that we put together, we all voted on and implemented for the city, our number one on our list is security. Do you know what the number one selling for a city from a real estate perspective is? Safety. And it's our number one on our strategic list for our city. So let me just give you a quick rundown of what Flock Security is. I'll leave the other stuff out because I'm going to be out in like 3.5 minutes so we can get her done. So today I want to open the dialogue on security for Bel Air Beach. Bel Air Beach is passing a strategic plan. The first issue on our strategic plan is security. To date, we have nothing on the table for security. I think other stuff you were trying to do here got knocked down. And I will show you the most cost-effective security system in the market today that has the most power. So it seems like cost is most important, so let's start there. Flock Security costs $11,200 per year for 6 cameras to support after my negotiations. This can be broken down as follows. The cost to put 6 cameras, 2 at Sand Key, Bel Air Beach, 2 at IRB, Bel Air Beach, and 2 on the bridge right here. So that's $11,200 a year. The cost will continue to break down. It's $933 a month, which is probably less than an electric bill for this building. And we can keep breaking it down. It's $31.10 a day to secure our city, or it's actually 2 cents per resident per day is the cost. So I call it the 2 cent per citizen per day security system. I've searched and I've scrutinized many technologies and ended up at Flock Security. They are now in more than 400 cities across the USA and growing, and they're getting ready to sign a contract with Hillsborough County. This is not the old plate readers of yesterday. This is new AI technology that changes lives and communities. So we will build a basically virtual fence around our city. So you know that the 3 locations, 2 cameras, and I spoke with Lynn today, and he thinks he can get his easement from Pinellas County to put those poles in. So what is Flock Security? Flock Security is a 3-year-old company that is focused on stopping crime. Their brand new technology is fully independent, it's solar, and then it runs off a SIM card to distribute the data to the police station. The contact between the camera and the police cruiser, which we have 4, so they have a new app on their laptop. So once we put that app on, they dial in. Every day they get in, they open that laptop, it fires up automatically and sits in the background until they get a notification. So what this technology does is when you drive by it, it reads your license plate. And if you're a felon, pedophile, whatever, it fires within 20 seconds to the cruiser that is in our Bel Air Beach area. So the whole point is to get 1 point of data and they can chase them down. But as we work with IRB and other places, they'll be able to get 2 points of data and figure out which way they're going and stop them easily, right? So let me get back to where I was. So they're running through the National Police Database, looking for stolen cars, known felons, pedophiles, but then they can put in known silver alerts or whatever they need, right? But this will never be touched by anyone in Bel Air Beach. Not only does it run all the plates, it also captures all video 24 hours a day in case it's needed for other crimes. All data is only kept for 30 days. Flock Security also includes a 24-hour customer service for our Sheriff's Department if needed. All data is only accessed by a detective at the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department. So what happens with the 4 cruisers is when a guy drives by, hits his license plate, he's a known felon, it sends an alert right into that cruiser. So he knows the car, the license plate, the color, the year, and the owner. He stops that car. If there's other issues related to that crime, he cannot go into Flock Security cameras. It must be the detective at the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department to move forward with the other problems, because he's already a felon, he's going to jail. Okay, so this new technology also uses AI. So there's some technology out there that's out here on this pole if you look at it. That's about $42,000 a camera, super inefficient, right? That's used by Pinellas County. So with this database, so if you have an accident, it was a bicycle, and it sees it, you can scan that last 30 days of data for all bicycles that's passed by it, right? For red cars, blue cars, green cars. So your data that you can get to and use becomes a lot more useful. But that would still only be through a detective, right? So, privacy is an issue that we were concerned with, and so is flood security, now that they're in 400 cities. Privacy issues are not an issue with flood security. This has already been proven in the Supreme Court, which I have a list of all the court cases, everything I can supply to you tomorrow, all by email. Your license plate is not personal information. It is out in the public every day, and you actually do not own your license plate or number. The government does. If you need more privacy, please let me know, and I'll send it all to you. As 400 other cities have already taken it to task, and it passed. Will the Sheriff's Department use it? This was what I spoke with Lynn today, and I think the Sheriff's Department, we have not met with them yet. That's our next goal, is to meet with them. It's pretty simple to implement. But, you know, it's a win for the Sheriff's Department and Bel Air Beach. You know, you have to figure out and decide whether you want to be safe or not. You know, some people say, oh, there's no crime in Bel Air Beach. Well, if there isn't, go home, take the locks off your door, and cancel your insurance. Right? I mean, so we need to be proactive in what we do in the city. One murder, one rape, one beating, or somebody gets hurt. It's just trying to protect ourselves as we go forward. So, sorry, I got a little distracted, flock security background, okay. I'll work with IRB, I'm going to meet with their city manager next week. Okay. Just give me 1 second here, I have another, out. Sorry guys, I was just trying to find, so what we did was, we looked at how many cars travel through Bel Air Beach every year. It's an average of 25,000 cars a day. It's 9.1 million cars a year that pass through here. You think everybody's interested in our best interest? And as things get tighter, criminals will become more aggressive. So we need to take steps. Number one, I think this is a good place to start and move forward. I think it's cost effective. It's been proven time and time again. I've given you all the literature. You can go on their website, look at the testimonials from Texas to Georgia, where crimes dropped 65% in some cities. They've recouped $9.5 million in stolen cars in other cities. So let's make a plan and let's start here. I mean, if I can pay for it myself, I'd do it, right? So, questions?
So let me open it up to council questions and comments.
I have a question for you. How long has Flock been in business?
3 years.
3 years.
And they recruited 400 cities in 3 years.
And you did mention in your pamphlet here, your booklet, regarding the warranty. Is everything covered in that 3-year maintenance warranty, so none of the city employees
So that was
will-
$2,000 a year per camera. I negotiated $1,800 a year. Sorry, $2,000 a year. I negotiated $1,800 a year. Everything is covered under the warranty. Solar panels, battery, camera. And that includes installation.
So if one breaks, they're gonna send out their own
Well,
technician?
they have 24-hour customer service. So anything that breaks, it'll send a signal to them. They'll know before we know. And yes, they will fix it.
About the warranty, I noticed there's 2 different price page, everything's the same, but one says 5-year warranty, one says 3-year warranty.
Which one?
Which one we get? See how this one says 5-year, and then this one says 3. This one says 3, and that one says 5. I'm just wondering which one it is.
Yeah, that was set in from them. Yeah, so whatever we signed up for, whatever term we signed up for, they'll warranty under that term, and they'll maintain $1,800. And any other cameras that we use for flock security, they'll do it $1,800 in the city. They'll keep the same price for us. This is a seriously powerful tool, guys. I mean, right now, I can drive up to any one of your front door. Right?
I've got a couple of
There's
questions.
nothing on recording. Go ahead, Glenn.
Law enforcement, our law enforcement contracts are number one expenditure. What, $500,000 a year roughly? The question is whether or not the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office would be in a position or being willing to cost share this? Do you think they
Listen,
would,
for $11,000 a year, I mean, we're doing the cost share. I can go get Bel Air Shores cost share with us. That's where I'm going 2 days. Let me do that first, right?
and that's certainly an opportunity. The other thing we're looking at is, as we start building contracts for engineered services and that sort of thing, we've talked about those vendors scoping out the work and helping us write the contracts or grant application to go ahead and make us more competitive grants. Does Todd have any experience with grants with other cities? And
No, there's no grants right now.
okay.
I discussed that. I mean, this is so cost effective. It's, I mean,
I understand it
5 months per
completely.
day.
I'm just nickel-diming you to try
Yeah,
to figure out
I mean,
if there's another way.
when I come, my next plan, yeah, we'll get into that, because the next one's gonna be a little harder to take, but this is something that can be implemented in 25 days. I mean, it could be here next month. They'll put it in 30 days for free to
Okay, I have a
prove their
question
technology.
for you. On this 3-year maintenance warranty, at the end of that, what happens?
Well, what I would suggest is, and I think I'll work with Lynn on that, is we sign a 10-year agreement, but we have some opt-out, Lynn, like 30 days before the end of each contract. Lynn, you with me? Put some opt-out in there because there may be new technology that comes. But what we do is hold that price for 10 years, and we can walk away in 6.
I would think at the end of the warranty, we would just renegotiate for brand new equipment.
Well, so I think your point is very good. What we're gonna say is, during our contract, if you have any new upgraded cameras, batteries, or anything you upgrade, you'll upgrade us for free.
And have you discussed with all of the neighboring cities yet?
I have not.
Okay.
My goal is to have all the beach cities on this program, so every criminal knows, don't go to this beach, stay over there.
Obviously, we would receive the most benefit if Sand Key, Bel Air Shore, and Indian Rocks all signed on to this program, and that
Well-
way we're covered.
Well, I don't think Indian Rocks is gonna come over and pay any money for us. They're gonna put their own on their own markers. Then we share that data.
But that's what
with
I'm
the sheriff's
saying, is
department.
that they have to, it's more effective if the neighboring cities have it, that's the way it's written.
I mean, you're still gonna protect your own city. You get it in and out for all 3 areas, so you're covered. But when you can give more data points to the sheriff, it makes it easier to, they know where to stop that guy, right?
Steve, I have some comments.
Sure.
They're not for your rebuttal, but I would appreciate a rebuttal at the end. But listen to my comments first. I'm not in favor of this idea. I'm never going to be in favor of this idea. I'm never going to support this idea. Okay? I am amazed in the United States sometimes how willing citizens are to give away their privacy. And that's,
They're gonna give away their
please let
privacy.
me continue and then rebut at the end. Okay? You're giving away your privacy. You don't own your license plate, that is correct. But the potential for misuse of this is enormous. Enormous. And if you smile and snicker, that's fine. Because I'm going to read you some facts.
Okay.
Because I bothered to research this a little bit.
Good.
Okay? No, it's not long. Okay? Washington, D.C. police officer pleaded guilty to extortion after looking up the plates of vehicles near a gay bar and blackmailing the vehicle owners. Police officers have used databases to search romantic interests in Florida. A former police officer in Minnesota discovered that her driver's license record was accessed 425 times by 18 different agencies across the state. A LPR misread plates, leading to dire consequences. In 2009, San Francisco police pulled over Denise Green, an African-American city worker, handcuffed her at gunpoint, forced her to her knees, and searched both her and her vehicle, all because her car was misidentified as stolen due to a license plate reading error. This technology that you talk about does have good points to it. You are able to capture the license plates and photos of everyone coming through your city. The problem is it captures the good and the bad. The problem is it can be used for way more than just getting, as you say, the stolen cars, the felons, and the pedophiles. It has been used in other cities to use for repossession. It's been used for traffic violations. It's been used for people who are not doing court appearances. Now you can sit there and say, well, the police can do that now. They can't, because they would have to sit there and individually read the stuff. You know, Mr. Marsh, I don't appreciate you snickering.
I don't
while I'm
care,
doing
man.
this,
You can't
okay?
tell me what I can do. I can stand here and jump like a monkey if I want.
No, you
So
can't
finish what you're
actually.
saying,
Take a
I'll
look at the
talk.
code of conduct in front of you and see if you can do that. I didn't snicker when you were talking, and I appreciate you knocking it off. You're supposed to be my friend and
I am
someone I
your friend.
support it. Then don't disrespect me.
Okay, then
Not
let's
doing
move it on,
my
that's
job.
why these things take so long.
Please be quiet.
Okay.
That's a point of order. Now, back to the point. For those of you in the city, you want communication with the city? You want to write to everybody in the city? Then I want everybody in the city to know that this can be used to triangulate location. So you can take a license plate reader, read when a person comes in on Indian Rocks, and read when they exit up on Sand Key, and through a small mathematical computation, know if they sped in your city. It's worse than a red light camera. Okay, because you cannot possibly get from one end of the city to another end of the city. The potential for misuse of this thing is beyond comprehension. And what are we protecting? As I recall, and I left it home, but I think we have 13 burglaries this year. Those aren't house burglaries for the most part, those are car burglaries. Car burglaries where people have left their cars usually open in their front driveway, someone's lifted the handle and stolen the contents, or walked into a garage and stole a tool. We've not had a murder. In fact, I've complimented the sheriff's office and been kidding with them. I keep saying, I want better than what you've been doing, because you know what? We know it's impossible, because 3 months running, we've had 0 crime. So you're offering me a solution to a problem that we don't have in this city. Okay, we don't have crime. And I can't see, and the other thing that I will let you know is that the sheriff has this technology, and they've used this technology. Now, they've not used it in our city, but they've used it as close as this bridge outside to read license plates. And I know of it, and I'm not going to go into the details of what they did, but they used it as recently as last year. So this technology is available to them if they want it. I don't see our city needing it, and I have a very, very serious privacy concern. And the other thing that you didn't bring up to our attention is the other use of this information. The other people who get to keep this information is your friends at Flock Data, okay? They get to keep that information, and in that contract that you're going to sign, because it's standard in the 4 or 5 other companies that do this, they can disseminate that information to whomever and however they wish. They own that license plate information, and it has been used for anything that they feel like using it for. And if you don't think you can match up individuals' license plates to persons, I will go around the city, and we can match it up in about 10 minutes' time by simply looking outside what cars they have at their driveway and looking at the tax assessor site and see who owns the property. It's real easy to do. And I don't think people are going to want to know when they have records of when they're entering the city and not entering the city. And one last point. The police have the ability to put in what's known as a hot plate. Your license plate as a hot plate. In other words, it'll look for your license plate. They will know if they want to, every coming and going of the person. Sure, they could do it now. They'd have to post 6 police officers and watch every single road as opposed to getting an automatic thing. I'm not speaking negatively about our sheriff. I'm speaking negatively about the misuse that has happened across the country. And it's not out of the realm of possibilities that it happens here. So I will never support this for you for the privacy concerns that I have for our citizens. And I don't think when our citizens hear what's entailed with this, that they'll support it either. That's my point. Now you can rebut me.
Okay, so you're one person. Anyway, the technology he's talking about is old LPR technology, right? Sorry guys, I'm talking about the technology you're using. It's ancient. So nobody can dial into that system except for one detective in the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department. All data is gone after 30 days. The contract we get from Block, we'll make sure that happens. So I think for you to sit there and say we don't have any crime, it's like saying, you know, my cabin don't leak when it ain't raining. So the day there's a murder, a rape, I'm gonna come to you. Any more questions?
Look, you come to
You don't prepare. You should be preparing. You can deny all you want. If we don't have security,
how is this going to stop a murder, Mr. Marsh? How will this stop a murder?
Why don't we start by stopping people from coming in here? Once they learn that they come in here, I mean,
If
so
you
you're
wanna
just
stop,
listening to what
hang on a
they're saying.
second. If you want to stop people from coming in, okay? You said you're going across the street to talk to Bel Air Shore next week? Sure. Why don't you take a look at the security that they have? What do they have that we don't have? They have gates and walls. We are more concerned about our pristine lawns according to the way it was written in our plan. So why don't we have a gate and a wall? Because I'll tell you something. There's no way you can run from car to car, and we were a victim of this. There's no way you can run from car to car, lifting doors up in the middle of the night, if there's gates and walls between houses. Bel Air Beach doesn't permit that. Okay, in terms of preventing a murder, yeah, you'll know every car that came into the city. It doesn't mean you're going to have any information on it. You're taking the good with the bad, okay? And where do most murders happen? It's with people that are known, right?
So I'm taking, zero prevention is,
The aspect and the competitive edge of this system brings is deterrence,
exactly.
okay? It's like a person who has a dog at home. The guy drives through the neighborhood, and if he knows there's a dog in your yard, guess where he's going to go to break in? He's not going to go in your house. Why not go next door to the person's house that doesn't have a dog? The competitive, what we're talking about here is deterrence, okay? And now that we've heard all the 1984 aspects of this system, my concern, I'm more concerned about Google, Amazon, and Netflix connecting my data, collecting my data, rather than some of this stuff. $11,300 a year, just random numbers. Guess what? For a park grant, you could have this system for 17 to 18 years, okay? Safety and health and well-being of our residents is #1 goal in our strategic plan that hasn't been reviewed for the last 2 years. Is that still a legitimate claim or not? Aesthetics is down around #4. So that's why I'm saying we got to reevaluate some of this.
I was going to say one more thing. People that don't want to be in the system, they can give them they can fill out a form, it takes their license plate and kicks it out anytime it sees it. So I mean, there's a lot of functionality to this. And I think before we all jump on a bus and dive in the river, let's let it sit. Let's talk next meeting, and I'll bring in some professionals, and I may bring in a sheriff from a very big city that implemented this program, and let's see how it worked for them, and let him talk to our city council.
Well, the fact that you can take out a license plate makes no sense to me. If I decide premeditated murder, I take out my license plate, go kill somebody.
You're a little smarter than most.
Well, obviously, but I'm just saying that I think that's kind of silly, because then what happens if half the
Let's drop the
city-
murder thing. We're trying to stop any type of crime. We want to stop and deter people from even coming over to the beach cities. Once we get us, I'll get IRB, I'll get the rest of them, people won't come over here because they'll tell everybody else, don't go here.
Well, I don't think people are gonna stop coming here because there's this black
Criminals.
hole thing with this black thingy that does something that we don't know, because I don't think there's gonna be a sign that says, hey, this is a reader, and if you're a bad
Yeah.
guy, we're
Yes,
gonna.
there is.
And it will be.
But as you go by, I mean,
And we're
you
also,
better not be reading the fine print as you're
we're
driving
also
by,
going to
because
do
you
a
need to have your eyes
big
first.
campaign for every newspaper, everything.
But
Okay.
I don't know, I don't think, I appreciate the work you did, and I appreciate your innovation, and I appreciate everything you've done. It's not a criticism with you, but I just don't think that we need this right now, and I think that 12,000 could be used, or 11,800 for a road. I mean, now we talk about parks, it could be used for something that,
You have children
the
here.
flooding,
Mr. Mark,
I
let
do,
her finish.
and that's why I have cameras, and that's why if Bel Air Beach would let me, I would have a fenced-in yard, but, with the gate, which opens up, just like Bel Air Shore.
It's 2 cents a person per day that lives in Bel Air Beach.
We can justify anything by how many cents per day it is per person, okay? This is not showing, you want to bring big, and I've researched this, I've done more research than
Anyone
anyone
else?
here.
That's a question,
Okay.
sorry, it was just, I thought you'd already told me everything. Did anybody else speak or not?
Want to run the meeting, Mr.
I
Marsh?
was going to say something, yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
I looked at this presentation before the meeting and I was completely not in support of it. But once you explained it, I'm interested in hearing more.
Okay.
I agree with the theory of, if you have cameras on your house, if you have a security system. I know I was a victim of, at my office building, I had security and I had stickers on the door. Well, there was someone trying to get in a building and they tried to break windows, but they didn't break mine because I had a sticker on my door that I had a security system. So there is some validity to that. It's kind of like, how do you keep the criminal out or the honest person out, put a lock on the door. So I'm interested in hearing more, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you presenting to us. And I think we all need to be cordial to residents that present things like this to us and not make it so confrontational.
So whatever you guys would like me to present next time, could you please tell me so I can bring it to you? I can get a sheriff from Lee County in Texas or in Cobb County in Atlanta, Georgia, that can do a presentation to us here, ask questions and answers to him.
By any chance,
Steve?
could you bring a sheriff from one of the counties that does have it, plus bring the sheriff that represents our city, so that we can get, you know, a little
Sure.
bit of, you know.
I think what we'll do is this, we will meet with the sheriff here, we need to get in touch with him, meet with him first, and then hopefully next work session we can bring him. And then next time, if I bring a computer with a big monitor, we could probably Skype with, I don't want him to fly down from Atlanta or from Texas, but we could Skype with the sheriff from one of those counties and ask questions as well.
Okay, because I echo everything Councilmember Shirley said. I would like to get some more information on it as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just to kind of also go with what Shirley said, I want, you know, my mind's still open, I'm not completely shut, I always like more information, but the comment about respecting the residents, I would say, with your next presentation, I know you're extremely excited about this and hyped up, but we need to kind of follow the rules too, and we'll give you respect, you give respect, so it goes both ways, because during one of the other presenters, I saw a few people out in the audience rolling eyes and making gestures, so I'm just trying to remind everybody that I'll be nice to you, you be nice to me, we'll all get along.
I got
But we're cool, we get it, but you know what I mean, just put it on the record.
No problem.
And I'll echo that. I'm also going to echo the fact that this is a competitive contract. It should be competitively bid. There's 4 other people involved with this. If this council's serious about this or considering it further, I want to see the other 4 people consulted on this, particularly if we're entering into a 5-year contract. And I want to just know what their options are. Because again, the contracts are key on this thing. We've got a 3-year company. There's other companies that have more or possibly less experience. I want to know what's out there, what their expertise is. And I also want to speak about to with their legal counsel, if we go further, see what kind of blowback they've got from citizens that have been affected by this system. So I think there's a lot to be discussed on this.
All right, I'd like to say one last thing. I've given you guys my proposal. If you guys are gonna go through with the formal bid, go for it. I'm gonna go and have gin and tonic. Let me know if you want me to present.
Steve, one more thing. Just on my block alone, we've got about 6 or 7 security systems, plus I think over half the block has got Ring cameras already. I'm interested in it. Again, I'd like to hear what our sheriff has to say.
Thank you. All we're trying to do is put some first layer of protection. That's all. It still takes Ring, it still takes everybody.
This is the #1 presentation for you, so it's kind of hard to break the ice. You want to see what the reception is here, and then take those questions you've been given and give us answers again. And then when you go to the other city, you'll have that many more answers going forward.
Right.
So I know this is a hunting season for you coming up here, and I appreciate it.
Well, what we're also doing is BEI, the island, is going to look at it right now for 22nd Street Bridge.
Well,
And we have the money in our coffers, so we're going to talk to all of our residents. We may pull it out of our coffers that we have left over if it's legal.
well, if we can work that out, and everybody agrees, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, we do the same thing we did for underground.
We've got the tools in place to do it.
Speaking of BNI, because I know you were part of that 3-person advisory speak for the residents, I think you need to be better about communicating with the residents more. I mean, I know about the information because I'm here, but my fellow neighbors had no idea about the solar lights or anything going on. Solar lights, anything going on. So if you're going to do this camera thing, we need to talk to the actual residents.
We had 96 of 115 petitions signed, so when those 96 people signed their name to it, they knew about it.
But you need to do better about communicating with the residents because there wasn't as much communication. Because many times we were talking up here and Lynn's like, oh yeah, they're communicating with you. And I'm like, no, they're not.
Well, we didn't have any questions, and I thought we did a pretty good job. Was there any questions? I mean, there were issues of placement, but I cannot do placement.
I don't want to get too far off the topic of the readers, and there was questions out in the audience. If council,
I
I'm
have
going to finish
a
council
comment.
comments first.
I have one comment. I've kind of held back on it. I think, first off, I'd like to thank you for bringing this to our attention and trying to help the city. I'm all for security. I'm not 100% sure I'm on board with this, but I think it's something that I want to look deeper into. Also, for the ultra paranoid, if you have a camera at home and it connects to the cloud, you've already got it. And so, as much as I, don't like the fact that information is being stored somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, it's already there. And the fact that it's only on our entranceways into the city, I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that we're getting a good deal
Okay?
and that the system is actually proven to work, and I would like to hear more.
Okay. Can you guys kind of give me direction of what you'd like to hear more about so I can get, do you think this year is the right thing?
Hang on. Any other council comments?
Did the city manager have any thoughts, or he's kind of down there quiet and he's wondering, nothing? Okay.
Laughing.
I think he wants security in his building.
Hang on.
Anything else I can do? You
Hang on,
guys,
Steve.
2 sheriffs? Is that it? Okay, sorry, I'm out.
No, stay up. Or stay nearby. We have city comments, citizens. They'll go, then you can speak after if they ask you a question, okay?
So when we talk about security, we have to also take in fact that you're having this discussion without our city attorney. Just remember that. Our city attorney's here to protect us. So try not to go down any certain roads before we get with him and let him look at the legalities of this. First and foremost, second of all, how does our insurance policy for the city cover us when it comes to something like this? That's what I have to say.
There was another hand.
I'll ask him direct. It was just about the database, Mayor.
Okay,
Where is
so
it?
you don't want to ask it in general then? Okay,
I'll get it information.
okay. Any other citizens?
I agree, we should talk to the city attorney.
Come on up.
Yeah, I can say it, but, I agree, we should talk to the city attorney. And let's find out what the issues are. I will call the company tomorrow and talk with our legal counsel, and I will give you every single thing you need for the attorney.
Why are we only looking at one company?
If you guys want to look at others, take the time to do it. I'm bringing.
I don't know that we want to, I think we have to. I think it's part of the competitive bid
You guys
process,
look
right?
for them. As far as the insurance, we should be talking to our insurance companies to reduce our cost because we're trying to reduce crime. Once we can prove or reduce crime in the city, then every single one of you can call your insurance companies because of reduction in crime. But we don't have any crime here, but we do have a little bit, right? So I'm just saying, this is level 1. I mean, if I brought level 2 right now, you guys would all be, a few of you would be jumping out of the plane. But, so let me know what I can do. I'll bring the 2 sheriffs as requested. I'll get that information. I'll look at 4 companies. I'll do it. I'll bring in the information.
We have to competitive.
I'll do it. I mean, I'm not gonna dive in deep and like I have to learn this, but it'll be a reader. I know that one camera right there is $42,000. It's on that pole right there. That's one of them that they use for reading, but I'll get that for you.
Okay.
Okay?
No, we're done with the citizens,
Cool.
with the citizens' comments, that's it. Any other council comments before we finish the issue? It's finished. Review of strategic plan, review of assumptions, goals, priorities, short-term rental. We're going for 2 hours. Does anybody need a break before we go into the next half of this? Seeing no's, okay, continue. Item 4. City manager?
Actually, this is from Vice Mayor Gunn.
It's not noted that way.
He sent it in at the
Okay, if a city council member requests it, then let's please put them next to it. If not, I assume it's the city manager. That's the general rule. So we'll move this to Glenn Gunn then.
Yes, in the interest of time, what I will do is I'll take this offline with the city manager, and we'll come up with some way of getting the information out there. I'll draft some sort of white paper, what the objectives of the drill are going to be, and you can just, everybody individually put some thoughts on paper and forward it to the city manager or the city clerk, and we'll consolidate, and maybe we can have a focused work session at a later
Do
date.
you want to add it to the next work session automatically? So I'd just like to, if we're going to fill up the next work session, let's fill it up now, and because this way we're not getting 9-item agendas. It's good, you can put it on right now if you'd like, and I like that idea though.
Okay, so I will take it offline and start putting out the feed there, so we can get the information consolidated, and we'll put it on the next work session agenda.
Patty, please add it to March agenda.
May I request that it be the first item on the agenda, because I think strategic plan is a very important item, and it keeps getting pushed down the line. So can that be the first item on the next work session, please?
So
Is everybody in agreement? Number 1.
Everybody in agreement with that? I have no preference, that's fine.
I'm fine with that.
We do have a very long issue though with that grant, so let's watch how much we put on this one and leave a little bit of reserve in case something comes up with the city manager just with regular business. Okay, so we move to item 5 then, discussion of undergrounding utilities from Bay Shore Drive to Gulf Boulevard, and the explanatory is undergrounding of remaining DEI project wires. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, what I'm looking for is some feedback. We did get a price when we first did this project for that stretch from Bay Shore to Gulf Boulevard. And there's been some interest from some of the residents. And, you know, my personal feeling is if we would go forward with looking at this, I think we need to get a petition or something from the residents in that area, and they need to approve it. I don't feel comfortable with saying, hey, I got a $73,000 credit, and I'm gonna use that and maybe another 10 or something out of the pool of money without that. And I just wanted to kind of clarify that to the city council. We'll get firmer numbers from Duke. I've asked for that on that stretch. I will tell you that I got a number from the conduit company. It was about 30,000, and the difference at the time that we originally got it was about somewhere between 40 and 45,000 that Duke was telling us. So I'm just reconfirming all those numbers. So it may be close to a wash, but you know, I just wanted direction from the council to say, and that's my recommendation, that we, you know, the BEI group does a petition and gets signatures from the homeowners.
I completely agree, because again, like I was telling Steve Marsh, I don't think we've been communicating effectively in petition form and making sure that we get approval. And then question two, I noticed some of the solar light poles have this little curlicue design and some don't, like,
That's the final process,
so those are gonna be added to Oxford Commons, we're not.
except ours, no.
Really, I ate mostly off the trucks. They're gonna kill me then.
No, we're working with the solar company to tidy up these odds and ends things. I think we've pretty much cleaned up everything with Spectrum. They still have to, of course, go across the bridge. And what I've been told by Duke, and I think I mentioned this last meeting, that they're going to start the subaqueous here in the next first part of March. So they did get the permit, so that's a good thing.
All right.
So we get this project done with.
We still have to get the cross wires across 22nd Street that run the two properties.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's Spectrum as well as Duke Energy.
Spectrum's all, I've already taken care of that with Spectrum.
So Duke Energy's on board, they're going to...
We're going to have some more discussion about that.
Because that's part of our equalization of value.
Right. They were going to take it back to the back pole. The pole was getting removed. So we'll clarify that with them.
So that's part of our deal we made with the residents. But as far as the bringing the power down, that source system sure would, I'd be happy that it would be running more often than in the past. And I think since we take all the source water from Bel Air Shore, they might be happy also. So if they'd like to contribute to make sure that they're getting their shore water pumped out, I think they push somebody's arm over there and talk nice and see what we can do. Or the county.
Well, I wanted to find out, I wanted to confirm first that you agree with me that it needs to be a petition, and I've got that consensus, so I'm good there. And
I concur with the city manager. The issue of wiring in the lift station
could be an issue.
is a big issue, because that throws the assessment methodology right out the window, and anybody can contest that, because all of a sudden, you've got people benefiting from that improvement who weren't assessed for the price of the project.
Well, if the city contributes a couple dollars to that, just for that one,
And the workaround is maybe
work around it legally,
we get the approval of the residents to spend the credit,
to bring the lines down.
and we run it in a way so that we can go back later on and the city can, at minimal cost, wire in the lift station. And avoid that little sticky wicket of the assessment.
If that would be one, yes, because originally, way back when, before the prices went through the roof, that was part of the project. Unfortunately, it got taken back. So now it's an issue because we want to move forward. So let's, whatever it takes to work it out.
And I have a
Get it
question.
done.
I wasn't here when we were doing the underground and when the legal pieces were generated. So I have no problem in concurring that you should, at a minimum, get a petition. But before you do that, I think you have to go back, and maybe you've done this already and just confirm, you have to go back to the legal document that you had with the residents and see if this is addressed anywhere in there. If it's been addressed in there, overruns, underruns, then you're bound by that document. If not, I think then the petition is the way to go. And, you know, and
Well, the document we did, actually, the document we did with the residents was a petition. It would have to be something similar to that they would have to sign. That's what we did to get the buy-in.
What about though when it came to their actual sign-in? I mean, I know we start with a petition, but then you get to their actual official, sign-in that it's going to be a mortgage, that type of thing, it's going to be a loan. Does that document address this at all? Because, when you started this project, you didn't know if you'd come in under budget or over budget. Came in under budget, that's great, but
Well, all we did with the residents was do the petition. We didn't do anything else.
Okay. So then I'd have to concur then that petition is the way to go.
Yeah, that's how we went, actually, Vice Mayor and I know Steve and I don't know how many others went door to door to get the petitions. I think Marv did a few. So, I don't know if Robin did any. No, okay. Or Dave, but no, it was a petition system.
It's petition then with council's final approval.
Right.
So that residents do have a chance, even if they're dissenting, I want everybody's voice to get heard, they can have an opportunity
Oh, yeah.
to convince council, even though, if it's, I'm just making this up, but if it's 8 to 7, I want to hear from everybody because it's too close to call at that point, right?
Yeah, there were residents that came to the meeting supporting and against.
I'm talking about for this additional piece, because this is truly optional. I mean, they have every right to say, thank you, you did a great job, give us our money back.
Right. Well, they're not going to get their money back, let me clarify.
Reduction in loan or.
They're going to get a reduction in assessment. The only people that get their money back is the one that prepaid. They would get some money back. Okay, that's all I
Hang on, well, let's just make sure if there's any in the council. Citizens?
Can I just say, I agree. We need to do a petition, and the petition has to include what that credit would be if they chose not to support it. We have a fiduciary agreement, or responsibility to these residents that we're going to spend X dollars, and this is the work they signed on for, and we're doing something outside of that scope. So the petition needs to be very thorough. I assume the attorney will draft that,
I
or?
was going to ask that the attorney has to be.
We'll have I'll talk to Chris
Chris
about
Rowe?
it.
Okay.
Well, 'cause last time it was like dollar amount, like if you already were attached, it would be 1,600, if you weren't, 1,700. So I think it needs to be like, if you've paid already, you get this much refund. If it's no, and then if you, otherwise, it would be, if you put an assessment 1,700, then it would end up being 1,600, just so you have numbers. Because if it's like a $30 difference a year, most people would be like, oh, okay.
That's about what it works out.
Well, but I'm just saying, you may get more people to say, okay, because if you say it would be a $70,000 bonus or whatever, but people are going to
You're
be
not
like.
getting $70,000 back.
I know that, but I'm just saying, if you don't make it that obvious,
Okay.
people are not going to vote for it. And so I'm saying you have to tell them, you pay this now, if it doesn't go through, you'll pay $30 less or
Right.
50 or.
I can't remember the original petition, but the original petition, it did include all the way to Gulf Boulevard?
No.
Okay.
In the original conversation, it did.
That's why we need to look at that.
No, it only went to Bay Shore and 22nd.
And I wasn't here for the beginning of this. Did anybody look at a grant? Hearing that there's grant opportunities, kind of.
We are lucky to get it done because at that particular time, there wasn't anybody in staff that even wanted this.
Well, I'm just saying,
We had
it
to
kind
go
of
out
annoys
and
me that
get the
there's
information from
grant
the
potential, and now I'm paying And
At
I
that
think-
point, nobody cared, they just wanted to get it done.
Not me, I wouldn't do.
Now it's another story, but if we get a grant and we've got it done, we could probably get some money anyway because we paid for it.
Any other,
Me too.
any other council comments? So then you're going to work with the city attorney and then go forward on that. You don't need any further council
No,
approval,
no.
we don't need the resolution, okay, so then you can.
I just wanted to make sure that the council was on board with kind of the direction I was going to
I
take.
heard no dissent, so you're free to go forward. Okay, number 6, we have a discussion on a digital sign at the community center. Is the descriptive on that? And back to you, city manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I gave you copies of 3 quotes we got for a digital sign. This is in our budget, and we've got enough money in the current budget. It will still have to come to council for approval. This is to put the digital sign on the actual, reuse the signage we have to improve the visibility, I'll call it. So this was a project that we put in the budget. Last year, we saved $10,000 for it, and we've got it in the budget this year, an additional 10. So we got 3 quotes. One of the quotes came in under 20. That's within our purchasing policy. We don't have to put it out to bid. I just want some feedback on this. Do you want us to go any further? Do you want us to forget about it? Do you want us to bring it to council for approval of purchase?
Is there any big difference between these 3 quotes as far as quality of sign? Is one like more
Well-
reading versus the other, or are they all pretty much comparable?
They're all 10 millimeter. I can tell you the lowest quote is the same sign that Indian Shores put in. It's been there 2 or 3 years, I think, at least. And got good comments from them. I did talk to Creative when we were talking about the sign on the corner. And they were more expensive than any of them at the time, and they still are more expensive, even though the has to do with the millimeter digital things. They're all comparable, all the signs. So I don't think there's any real difference of any magnitude. It's just different companies' technology.
Let me just continue to be the voice of no tonight. I've got 3 articles in front of me. Is Bel Air Beach ready for a digital sign? Wayne Ayers, September 19th, 2017. Digital sign draws residents' protest by Wayne Ayers, October 3rd, 2017. And the last one, no digital sign for Bel Air Beach, November 9th, 2017. And the issues were as follows. I'll summarize them because I'm not going to read all the articles, okay? There was a proposal to put a digital sign on the corner where Crossman Park is right now. And Mark Goldman, one of our residents, came to the meeting and questioned the sign's fit for the city. And again, I go by what Wayne Ayers writes. Usually he's pretty accurate with his quotes. And he said, the introduction of an electronic sign into an environment that has historically had none of this advertisement allowed in the city limits for any purposes may be found offensive by some of the residents, Mr. Goldman said. And Mr. Goldman also said that this goes against anything else we've had and could be viewed as commercializing the city. Mayor Notaro, former Mayor Notaro, told Mr. Goldman that the electronic sign is a response to residents who have complained that the current sign outside City Hall is too small and too difficult to read. Same reason we're proposing, or I'm not proposing, but others are proposing to do this. So then they held a meeting, and protests were seen through social media and emails, and apparently this place was flooded with people objecting to this, with the sign. They also went against the placement of the sign across, but they also went against the idea that there be a digital sign. And finally, the council tabled that idea permanently, but here it is back again. So here's my thought on this. Lynn, you and I talked about consistency today. This isn't an attack against you, it's an overriding way we should be governing our city, okay? We should be consistent in everything that we do. And if you want to put a digital sign outside City Hall, and I'm the owner of one of the motels, I'm gonna be here the next week asking for my digital sign permit. And if I want to put a digital sign outside my house, I'm gonna say, why can't I put a digital sign outside my house? I already have constitutional problems with our sign ordinance, and our prior attorney agreed with me on that. So if what we do for one, we need to do for everyone. And I do like the idea, you know, Bel Air Beach is kind of this little carve out in time where we're a residential city on the coast that nobody else is. And now we're going to start digitalizing it. The residents spoke pretty clearly against this. They didn't want it. I agree the sign outside is too difficult to read. It's impossible to read sometimes. I strain to have to go by 2 or 3 times sometimes to see when a meeting might be. But that information is also on our website, and it can be texted to people if we move a step further with this communications idea, or emailed to people. So I think before we go down this again, we better take a look at our history, because we're going to come up with this idea again. It seems like we're going to have the same room with the same people with the same objections, because I don't see that there's that much of a difference other than we're placing it outside City Hall this time.
Well, just to kind of clarify something, they didn't want the digital sign on the corner, but there were several people at the meeting that were fine with the digital sign at City Hall. They just didn't want it on the corner in Crossman Park. That's what they were objected to at the time.
Some, but some did not, if they're current to be right.
So,
And my other concern is, like I say, I hate like hell to see the motels all of a sudden flashing, you know, and having these big digital signs. And they have every right to say, you got it, city, why do you get it and we don't get it? And I don't know how we get over that one, quite frankly. Yeah, it's-
Can I inject something here?
Sure.
You're right. Just people refer to them giant glowing neon signs. We know they're not really neon, but the problem is not that we need it lit up. I think the problem is the placement of the sign. It's basically you've got a flat billboard with text on both sides. For cars going either direction, it's a bad angle because it's perfectly flat. And whenever we did have this discussion at some time, or maybe I was sitting out there and they were hashing this out. I told Wendy, well, why can't we do a wedge? And suddenly, now the text is facing the cars rather than the parking lot and whatever. It seems like we could maybe alter that without going full on digital, maybe light it up a little bit better and have bigger lettering rather than opening the floodgates for complaints and like you say, the motel that is in the business asking for digital signage. Just something to think about. I would be more than willing to at least consider looking at other quotes for something else, if that's something that everyone agrees with. I don't know.
I was at that meeting. There was a lot of upset residents here. They did not want digital signs. Part of it was they thought it was going to be a golf ball on the corner. Part of it was a digital sign. I'm not in support of a digital sign. That's why I was at the meeting. So I was one of those residents. I agree with Dave, it's hard to read. It catches my eye when there's something on there. Part of it is that we have a big concrete structure that blocks half the sign when you drive by. So maybe there could be some work done to the existing sign for information. But at least when I know there's something there, it triggers me to look on the website. I think we need to look at other options before we commit to a digital sign. There were a lot of residents in opposition of this.
Anyone else in council?
Would it be okay if we asked to look at other options? Would you be okay with that?
this was put in the budget last year. The council approved it going forward, and we put another earmark in this year to save for it. Mainly because of the I'll call it the grumbling of this sign. That's the main reason. And I understand the grumbling on the corner, totally, and but I did not get that feedback, and I don't, it doesn't matter to me if you leave the sign the way it is. You know, we'll just continue to move on down the street.
Well, what I can tell you, I'm sorry to interrupt, what I can tell you is the way it is now, it's almost worthless. And I have very good distance vision. I can't see that, but I can see that clock crystal clear.
Don't look too close.
But I cannot read the sign in either direction.
It's hard to see.
You've got to slow
Yeah,
down.
part of the reason, you aren't gonna be able to move it forward because of the right of way. The county's not gonna let you put
No,
that.
no, I'm aware of that. That's why I was kind of proposing more of a. like-
And we can look at other options.
I
It just says a sign.
Yeah, I would like to ask for us to look at other options as well. I don't really want a digital sign out there, neither does anybody I've spoke with, but we do need to be able to read it. And there's too much on there and you can't read it. So I agree, we need to look at either maybe changing the shape of it, changing the font on it, the color of it. So that's my thoughts on it. So we can look at other options.
So admittedly, the council does approve things in the budget and later on change its mind on it. So, okay, let's get that out of the way first. Secondly, it's the obtrusiveness of a digital sign. We all drive down East Bay, West Bay, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a sign that burns holes in the retina. I'm imagining that the technology is such these days where you can crank the luminosity down on these things and make it not so much. So it's really the obtrusiveness of the thing and the readability. Those are the two issues. that
Right.
we need to look. So we just need to look at whether the technology allows us to face those issues or if there's some other alternative.
Well, I've even seen technology where it's paper white and there's black lettering on it, and it's lit up just like a normal, plain sign, not giant LEDs.
So like an LCD or something instead of.
Right. Whatever that technology
We're throwing this
would
digital
be,
sign
right.
around and it's not necessarily what we're thinking of. There's other technologies out there that might answer the mail.
Right, but these are bright LEDs, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. They're like the pixels that you can change it, I guess how I look at it, what the digital sign offers to a lot of cities is the fact that you don't have to be there to change it.
Right.
It's a remote change.
I think what would be helpful in this conversation is if we had actually had pictures to look at. What is it that you're showing us? All I know is it's a digital sign and it sounds like it's bright and really obnoxious. But it may not be. It may be like a very dulled down, subtle.
I think really, excuse me, I think we've got a picture of a running, multicolored digital sign. And I don't believe that's what our attention is. These are just,
It's mainly to
signs you
put
can-
letters on it.
that's all you do, it's just change the lettering on it.
That-
and it
that's
doesn't
right there.
flash or nothing.
See the thing you gave us for a timer?
Right.
That's what the letters would be going. It would be a black
Black and white. that's
black background, and then you would put letters, maybe they're red, because you gotta have the contrast,
It's electronic and it's,
yeah.
but, so I think.
But it sounds like no one wants electronic signs, so,
I think the Vice Mayor's summarization missed the point that I was making, is whatever you do, be prepared to do for everyone in this city. And, we have this sign ordinance that says you can't put a sign outside your house, the Supreme Court says you can. So we can a realtor can put a open house sign out there. Somebody could put another sign, I'm not gonna use bad words, blah, 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 Bel Air Beach. You cannot stop that. So think, right now, you have this sign, and I'm with you, Dave, I can't read it either, and I've got 20/15 vision, okay, from distance. But we give the motels the same rules to operate by. Once you say you can put that up there, that type of sign, then they're gonna say, sure, we wanna do that, we wanna make it blink, because your ordinance doesn't say about blinking. And if it's not so ridiculous, you're gonna have a hard time justifying why it's not done. And so we wanna talk about changing the composure and the nature of our community. Just imagine driving up and down the houses, and people are having garage sale signs, and it's all fair game. You can buy these signs relatively inexpensive now, particularly some of these digital ones. The big ones we need, of course, cost more, but little ones that the stores use, they're not that much.
No. Okay, so I've heard, you want me to go look?
Well, hang on, I have to ask for, we've been keeping it open for the citizens, so I do want to see it. Any other council before I go to citizens? Okay.
Yeah, thanks. It's an interesting discussion on that sign. I waited around for that. Nice spending the evening with you guys. Thank you for all that you do.
Could you put your name and address on the books, just because I don't think it's been put on yet, just so they have it, so Patty has it for the record, so thank you.
No one else did tonight, so I'm not gonna either. Here's my thoughts on that. How do you turn this on?
No,
It's on, the green.
Oh, it's on? I had a question on the digital sign. Is it, you were just getting a digital sign for the city and just things that were going on?
Right.
Yeah, and that was the thing that was supposed to be on the corner.
And at the time, people didn't want it on the corner.
I remember.
But there was some discussion at that meeting that they didn't have an issue with it being at City Hall, they just didn't want it in a park.
Sure. I have no idea what you're looking at. I'll just put a whole other spin on it though. You got a lot of things going on, departments looking for money. I think Glenn just said it, you come over the bridge, it'd be glaring you in the eye. That's an easy 150, 200K in marketing if someday the city wanted to use some of this property to advertise anything. I can go up and down this beach and tell you, from a marketing perspective, you got a piece of land here. I thought that's what you were looking at, which would have surprised me.
Well, you're talking about something from, well,
No, I had no idea. I just thought maybe the sign out here was gonna, no, not a billboard on top of City Hall. I just thought you were looking at something that would post city information, but watercolors is 1 mile to the right and Indian right, you can get a lot of marketing money. It's just food for thought on some of the gaps you have now, but anyways, thanks for everyone's help and time. I appreciate it as always.
Citizens, anything else? Council, Lynn, did you have anything in
No.
wrapping up? So it doesn't look like you have consensus to go forward with this, but maybe perhaps any other alterations to the present sign, if anything, or any other ideas?
yeah, we can look at other things. I mean, as I said, it was put in the budget, and it's been in there for now 2 years, so. Okay.
All right, so that'll end item 6. We move to item 7, review of code violation fines, and this is to discuss the fines for recurring violations. City manager.
Yes, mainly this is when we have what we call an irreparable situation, and I'm going to use short-term rental court as an example. That's something that's happened in the past. It's already happened. We violated someone. Sometimes we have multiple incidents, and our fine system allows us to fine $1,000. We've got other instances where we've had them 4 and 5 times to a code hearing. And in if you look at your document that we put in there about the administrative fines, for certain fines, we can go not to exceed 250 per day and shall not exceed 500 per day for repeat violations. But we don't have that repeat violation in the last sentence that talks about violation be irreparable or irreversible. We don't have that same stipulation. So, I'm asking for some feedback on what the council might like to do to try to make it the same for both type of violations. The city, because we're less than 50,000 people, a code enforcement board or a magistrate finds a violation to be irreparable or irreversible, it could impose a fine not to exceed $5,000 per violation. And I'm not suggesting that, but I think we need to think about what we need to do going forward when these, and I'm just using short-term rentals at the current situation where it just keeps happening. And even though you tell them they gotta stop, they do it again. Or they're quiet for a couple months and then they're caught again.
So, and I've thought about this, excuse me for jumping in here, but I think you and I have talked about it. At least after the third, double, the fourth, triple, something in that regard. And the problem that I think the city has too is all you can do is put a lien on the property. Is it possible, and I don't know this, maybe you do, Mayor, to, after the fifth violation, force the house to sell? Somehow, is that possible?
No.
No, but I do have a suggestion on that, though, that probably no one's thought of. We had a gentleman in this town, he had a gazebo or something in his backyard, I can't remember the guy's name, but.
Yeah.
What was that, how high did that fine wind up going before it was over and done?
It got up to like 12 or 13,000.
Okay, and then we negotiated with him and cut it in half, is that right? Or
We
even
got
lower?
we took 5,000.
Okay, what if you called the guy up next time and you say, you know what, you don't have to pay that fine, but we're gonna issue you a 1099. However, I'll actually give you a reduced rate if you don't want to pay the taxes on that gift.
I don't know if you can do that.
You cannot do that.
If you released him from that fine, you have now just,
Oh, you're releasing, I see where you're going at. You're talking about release of debt. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
And that generates a 1099, and for many people, that pushes them right up into the next tax bracket, and they don't want to do that. So just throwing that out there while it's fresh on my brain here.
It's a good idea because it's a release of, like a loan, it's a release of a lien on the property, so it is a taxable event.
We should ask our city attorney to look at that, but I do agree with the statement that you made regarding the both should be the same, since this is multiple violations, it states it up there. Maybe we double it for the next one, you double the first one from 250 to 500. So that's just my thought on it, plus check with the attorney on the 1099.
I agree with increasing it as violations, because I mean, let's face it, they rent it out for 2 weeks, they earn $3,000, we give them a $1,000 fine, they're still at $2,000. They're gonna rent it again. There's no deterrent, but if you raise it and they're gonna earn $3,000, but now they have to pay a $5,000 fine, now they're up two, you know what I'm saying? So I think there needs to be a penalty to deter the continued bad behavior, because all they're getting right now is a little slap on the wrist and then.
Well, actually, all they're doing is they're just renting their property out for a little bit less, but they make up for it with raising the rates. So it's a win-win for the short-term renters.
But my thing is, if they're gonna be raising their rates to cover their fines, they're gonna get to a point where nobody's going to rent it because it's ridiculously expensive. So that's what I'm saying, to deter them. Either you pay the fines and earn less, or you stop renting.
Lynn, what is your recommendation?
Well, I think my thought is to double it for the second time, and then if they do it a third time, I would double it one more time, and that's as far as we go. Yeah.
And the other thing, if you look at D, special master may reduce a fine imposed. No, I don't think there should be any fine reduction if it gets to the third or the fourth time, not even the first.
Well, I think that's the magistrate's option to make the fine. It can be up to that number. I think that's the magistrate's prerogative.
Can we eliminate it? Because, you could have a president come in there and you've given him, spent the time to give this person 3 fines, a magistrate drops it.
Well, I'll give you.
What good is it?
Well, I'm going to give you an example. We had a gentleman, it was a couple months ago, wasn't it, Mr. Jones? Was it Mr. Jones? Remember
Yeah.
Patty? Yeah, he had rented his property, it was on Bay Shore. We caught him, we brought him in, He had already rented it again before we were able to get to the magistrate's hearing, but he immediately canceled everything. He came in, you know, so you kind of got to work with people if they're going to comply, as opposed to, I'm just going to hammer you with money. Now, there's another house on Bay Shore that I think we're up to 5, which is $7,500. Now, but they've been brought to code enforcement 5 times. Well, it's more than that now because of interest. That house is going to be selling, so we have a lien against it, so we should get our money for that. So, you know, it's kind of, I think the magistrate has to have some latitude. If someone's really truly willing to comply, and as opposed to maybe the letter you got that said I got 21 more.
I don't want to, yeah, I was going to reference that, but I don't want to talk about pending legal, because that is pending, but I do want to address this issue.
Yeah.
Couple thoughts. Number one, we need to make, I know this is a separate code, a separate provision of our
Yes.
code, but because, and I don't know if there's any reference to this in the short-term rentals
No.
thing. Okay, I just want to make sure, because obviously we know that's
No,
grandfathered
no.
in, even a slight reference could make a change. Lynn and I, without going into the present case, because that is pending still, came up with some, we're talking today, and came up with some ideas, and one of the possibilities is to actually, which is not something we want to do, but we've had an attorney coming in trying to plead the rules of evidence here, and we're not even sure if the, you know, how this thing is, if the magistrate hearings go, are they relaxed rules of evidence or not? And that's important because you would have to have the renter present. Well, your renter is back in Minnesota or Ohio or something. So one of the ideas he and I were kicking around, and I kind of thought it was a good one, was, well, we find the renter too. And I said, we're really not after the renter, okay? We're using the renter the way district attorney uses a lower participant in a crime, saying, we'll be more than happy to free you up, but you're going to testify against that individual. We want to go against the individual, but it also gives some penalty to that individual. So, you know, your hands are tied somewhat because these people will just, if they're going to keep that house for the next 30 years, yeah, you got a big lien, but none of us will ever live to see it collected, you know. And I'm not sure, Dave, I like the idea. I know there's a forgiveness of debt. I'm not sure if this is considered like a negotiation and not considered a formal debt. It's an idea to be looked into, though. It would make it taxable to them. But, I mean, the idea is to get them to pay. And I remember that one situation when, you know, we had to forgive it just to get them to comply. We need to give you, I feel, whatever power you need to really seriously be able to enforce this thing. And if it's fines, then it's as much fine as it possibly can be. Whatever the law allows and whatever we're allowed to do as a city. Because if not, it's really becoming, it looks like a cost of business, and there's enough money here to rent these houses for, what were you saying, a couple hundred a night? I mean, you know.
The current one's $275 a night. The one on Bay Shore was I think it was 700, but it held 10 people.
So $500 fine is nothing. It really is.
It's just a cost of doing
It
business.
is.
I've been saying all along, you knock on the door, you write a citation to the renter, and guess what? That guy's reviews all of a sudden get hammered. Hey, I accepted this thing, and I got cited by the sheriff for a short-term rental. What's with that stuff? And I guarantee you what, you start giving that guy some negative reviews, he's out of business. So I mean, you attack this thing on a couple of fronts there, and go after the user too.
If we have to give you the ordinance as a council, I'm not seeing too much objection here. I think you'll get that ordinance. My only caveat is make sure it doesn't do anything to mess up this
No, we're
short-term
not
rental
touching
grandfathering that we have. So, but I mean, it's really a separate ordinance saying if you
Yeah.
violate.
Yeah, this
it's more.
is the administrative fine. It has nothing to do, it could be for anything. You know, if it's something that's happened in the past, then we're fining them for something that they can't go back and fix. Where a typical code fine, and that's kind of why the $250 a day, 500 situation is there, because you can put that fine on someone and say, okay, and we're going to use ISA for one. You know, we kept telling him, get rid of that thing, but he didn't do it, but finally he did. And the bottom line is compliance. It's not to penalize people, it's compliance. That's what the bottom line is.
Okay.
The city attorney's on board with this? I mean, there's no way this can come back on us?
Well, no, I'll have some more
Interfering with
discussion
short-term
with him. I did talk to him about it, and I think he was a little confused because he couldn't find the, he asked me about, I was using the short-term rental as an example, and he said, well, you don't have one of them. And I said, oh, yeah, I do. So, you know, and that's because Fred's new. He doesn't know our code inside and out. So we'll move forward with this and get something together, and if I remember right, I think there's something in the code that says the fines can be modified by resolution, if I remember right. I think that's, so,
Lynn,
and that's all I've got about it.
Well, I wanted to just add, and again, not going into the present situation that you and I discussed because it is pending, but in general, I want to discuss the support that you'll need in terms of this council helping you on these, with these short-term rentals. And one of our concerns was that, if you have a short-term rental, in terms of, your option, well, first off, they're not sure legally what some of this stuff is, and then the area comes up, dear Mr. Mayor, come on, cut me a break, I didn't know any better. Okay, well, it's not within my power to cut that break, number one. Even if it were, I've been preaching consistency all night, all year, okay? My point to Lynn today was, this was my view on it, be consistent. If you do it for one, you must do it for everyone. So the fact that you have it rented and you didn't know the law, we've got these laws posted, and one phone call to City Hall can get you informed of the law. So I would this was my point to him was, be consistent, and the answer generally, 99.9 out of 100 is going to be no. You can't rent it. You can't give them that break, because when you do, the next neighbor from the next block is going to say, I want the break too. That was my take on it. I would like to see where council is to make sure that he goes back, because there is stuff that's pending, to make sure that we're all behind him in terms of, the answer was no, in terms of setting exceptions.
Just a comment, this is nothing new. This has been discussed, it's been in the paper. I'm sure the people that are renting know what goes on in Indian Rocks Beach. I'm sure they're aware of what goes on here. You can't claim ignorance. It's been on TV, it's been in the paper. This is nothing new. It's not a law that just jumped on the books yesterday. It's been around for a while.
No, I agree, but I just don't want,
No,
I don't want Lynn to feel pressured that somebody's going to say, well, I'll go to the mayor, I'll go to the city council, I'll go to the county, go to whoever you'd like if you wish, but our position unified is going to be, Lynn, don't make an exception to this unless there's, pleading ignorance isn't the excuse. There would have to be something. I can't even give you an example that would be acceptable. I don't have it, so that was my point. I just wanted to see where council was on it, and so if we can give him any other guidance other than mine, so.
I agree.
You agree? Anybody else, anybody disagree? Lynn? We're behind you.
Okay.
All right, any other citizen comments? No? We're done with number 7. Discussion of traffic calming, item number 8. City manager.
Yes, I asked everyone to send me any comments. I got one set of comments from, I got something from the mayor, no one else. There's a few edits I'll be doing to the document, but moving forward, we will probably bring this traffic calming policy forward to the city council so they can approve it. And we can move forward, and hopefully, then there's a set policy on how we move forward with anyone that says they're speeding on the street, or they want a speed bump, or they want a sign, or whatever it is. But it will take a good majority of the street to have it approved. And then it's a policy set up, and it'll still, the approval in the end will still come to the city council.
To any of the comments that I made, most of them were just edit type things, but if there's any questions on there, you just give me a call, or, next time you see me go through it, there's no need to, I don't think any of that required form, a lot of that was just inquiry, and then there's a couple, I think, edits that had to be made, but other than that, it was a general, I think the policy was good.
Yeah, most of it was just questions and stuff, so.
Do you have any other?
That's all I have.
Council?
I don't believe I got an email, if that was an email.
Well, we said it at the council meeting, said, make sure you send me your comments by the 10th of February.
Oh, I thought you said you sent out a policy.
No.
Okay, okay.
You got the policy, but
He distributed at the meeting.
if you've got any comments, just
I
send them.
thought you said, you know, I apologize.
So the changes are just scrivener kind of error.
Yeah, I had some questions.
It was just clarification, like, you know, what is a
Through, what is it, Feeder Street or something?
Feeder
like that?
Street.
Yeah, it seemed like it was
Yeah.
geared to a bigger city than ours, and I was like, well, okay, I don't think we have feeder streets, and then my other questions were, that there was exclusionary language in there, and I said, well, some of the smaller streets, like mine, like Lynn's, I'm like, do they even have a chance at making this? You have to have a certain car count. and-
we'll
Yeah,
adjust the car counts down.
that was all we had to do.
As far as feeder streets, we've actually got First and Second on Feeder Street from any Roxbury.
And actually, 22nd technically is a car section.
Belle Isle Avenue.
It didn't define it in there, but overall, I mean, it was pretty good. I don't think, there's not a lot of change to it, so you could just, you know, you and I can just go through the questions, there's only a few. So. Any citizen comments on that? All right, so we're on general business. We don't go in order tonight, so just, if anybody has anything, just bring it up. Anybody?
I noticed a few of our streetlights on this side of the bridge were out the other morning. Just, take a look, they
Okay.
can pay attention, because we're responsible for those, right?
We call them in and, yeah.
Yeah, it's more than one. It's 3, maybe, or 4. It seemed like this whole side was dark.
On here?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, it was both sides of the road, but once you came over the hump, there were a few, 3 or 4 that were out.
Lynn, I have a question for you. How is the crosswire situation going on?
Spectrum has already done some boring on Gulf Boulevard. We're looking at first through Causeway is the first section. And my last conversation with Duke, they have had their pre-construction meeting for that section. So we'll start seeing some operations by then.
All right, with the information that I talked to you about as far as pennies for Pinellas, and then starting to do any bidding or pre-bidding on doing the entire Gulf Boulevard, do anything?
Yeah, they haven't moved forward with that. The county has hired a consultant, and they haven't really given us, the number they came up with was, I believe it was 43 million to do all the way down Gulf Boulevard. And what the county has proposed to give the beach communities is 35 million, the same as we got last year. Our cut of that's about 2.7. If that doesn't work out, the caveat was still out there that, okay, well, we'll give you your allocation, and you can do it individually. But until that county assessment goes through, we won't be getting, and that's a couple of years away anyway.
Yeah, I do know from talking to some people that Big C, Mayor Queen, I think, is moving forward. He's going to just do it and then let the county pay him back. So he's moving forward to get the loans and do that. But as far as what we're going to do, would it be smart or move us to go ahead and at least get a bid on it so we can start before anybody else?
I can
He's
answer.
got, you know, I mean,
Well-
Indian Rocks Beach has got all concrete poles for the most part. So they're pretty stable as far as a windstorm. But when you come into Bel Air Beach, EV's one pole's one direction, one pole's another, and they're weak. And we've had a few replacements out there already, so.
Well, the spectrum portion of that is going to happen already.
Right.
It's, the only thing that will be left will be the Duke Power. I mean, I can ask Duke, you know, it's not going to cost us anything to say, hey, I want a proposal for that.
Would Duke do that, or can we use what we used before to do BEI?
Well, we'd first have to go to Duke and ask them for the split. and then,
Have them bid it and see what the difference is.
right, yeah, you want to do that because, if it's, because these are the transmission lines, which is a little different animal than going to a neighborhood.
We're talking larger.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
The only thing that I had was just a reminder to everyone, you have given out a security assessment, which we didn't want to talk about in the sunshine. I don't know whether we should just talk with you privately. I've already spoken to you briefly about it. I don't have a lot of comments. I don't know if anybody has any comments on this stuff, but we should get those comments back to you, I think, because I know you're proceeding on some of those suggestions already. So
Yeah, we're
council
getting
wants
some
to-
quotes on
Yeah.
cameras, and Councilmember Gaddis gives some, a little bit of input on that once we get the quotes back.
And I have some new information also that I'll share with you on stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And I've already told you about
Yeah.
my area of concern has been that way for a year, and the sheriff agreed, and that's been, so I'm supportive of that. And I think, if we've got some money here that we can use for a sign, I'd like to see security of this building and the employees that are in it it's very important. It's critical. So we don't want to be on the news for that. So that is
Is it long overdue?
yeah, it's a legitimate concern, I think, given what's happened in Indian Rocks and other surrounding communities with, irate renter who just decides to come in and have it out with you. We don't want that, so, really don't.
Aside from public feedback on the digital sign, I just took a quick look at 8661 and 8662, and there's nothing that prevents a digital sign. There's no reason a hotel couldn't go down there and put up a digital sign right now.
That's right.
So, again, is it unobtrusive, is it readable without
There's a different concept than digital signs. This is what we're proposing, or Lynn proposes, really not what we think is a digital sign, multicolor rolling.
No, we're in violent agreement here. I'm saying that I agree that we could do this unobtrusively, make it more readable without people taking exception to it. I'm not looking for a red
Well,
ticker
maybe,
tape, and I'm not looking for sparklers and
Flashing,
fireworks
right.
going up. I'm with you.
well, maybe we should, put an ordinance together, resolution or whatever, take just for that type of sign only.
Your sign ordinance, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, is unconstitutional. That is agreed to even by the prior attorney, which I didn't always see eye to eye with. It is unconstitutional, folks. We need to change it. One of the things we're talking about in the charter review is a compelled review of our ordinances every 5 years, okay? 5 years ago, the Supreme Court said that what our ordinance is not proper. So it's really time that we do it because, as Glenn said, yeah, it is digital, and somebody could put one that looks like Caesar Palace out there if they want, and we're gonna have a hard time saying no to it, and if, without getting ourselves in trouble. We've had residents test the limits and say, I'm gonna put up a political sign in the middle, of a non-election period. And I'll tell you, we were smart, we didn't go for the bait, but if we'd taken those down, we could have problems. So I'm just giving advice, the city attorney's gonna echo the same thing, it's,
All right, why
don't
don't
do it. We need to rewrite that one.
Why don't we go ahead and put that on the list of things we want done next time? Just to take a look at that ordinance, sign ordinance, and correct that, so that when we install our sign, that's it, there's no questions afterwards.
Lynn, can you ask our city attorney to check that all out so that we can get his advice on it? I think that might be a good idea.
Great. It has to come from him, and with regard, he knows, if he doesn't know the Supreme Court case, I will give it to him, that pretty much permits individuals in the city. We have to carefully craft this. Again, what we do for ourselves, we need to be ready to let other people do. So, sure, a bigger building can get a bigger sign, but you can't say no signs for everybody else. It's not gonna work like that. So. And sign.
Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. We've already had calls for the spring garage sale, and typically that's the first Saturday in April. And going forward, we'll put the other side of the street as no parking, so it's fair, like we did last time. We'll come up with a few more signs to try to prevent that, but I think for the most part last time, they were pretty good about staying where they're supposed to. So that's coming up. The work session in March. We've got a little conflict on the third Monday. We have a rental for a wedding.
Monday?
Reception. So, yeah, so, I'd like to see, I'd like to ask the council's consensus on when we could, I didn't realize the wedding was there when I thought the third. So, and then the next day is the election, so we're gonna have a quick shift in the morning, cleaning up and so.
Back to Wednesday, probably.
So, we could either do it the following Monday, which would be the 23rd. Because Mondays seem to work for everyone, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know my schedule. Do you know my schedule?
I would like to go with Monday the 23rd, because this Wednesday thing's difficult for me.
March 23rd. Clear.
Okay, I'm good.
Everybody, so that's when we'll have the March work session. And then after that, we're back to the third Monday, so you can, except for the budget thing, and I'll be giving you those dates here shortly.
You and I discussed this, but I just want to make it public. The citywide garage sale, I think we're on the odd side of the street this time, except 7th Street, you're already put on the odd side, so it's supposed to go to here. That 7th is off, remember, you were on the even side of the street. For some reason, you're off kilter on one of the streets, and I think it's ours. I don't really care, make it odd, but just keep it
I
consistent.
think we did no parking on even this time.
Except for 7th Street. I don't know why you did it, but you did it on 7th. It doesn't matter, nobody parked there, we didn't have anybody, I don't care. I'm just kidding you. But the paper signs up and down the block are important. The problem that we had last time was those signs, people don't even, they just see citywide garage sale and the arrow, and that's all they read. You had the signs underneath there. Some residents had actually taken to putting things in their driveway. And I think the other thing that worked really, really well was you had the sheriff, the code guy going around. He was, and the sheriff, they were all over it. They were keeping those streets bottleneck free. There was a couple streets, I think 15th or 16th, there was a couple streets that did back up. And other than that, he reported that pretty much the city was pretty clean. So it worked well with one side of the street.
Yeah,
I had no problem personally.
Yeah, I had the code person in on that day, and, let's see.
The sheriff was going around too, yeah, he had both, so they were on pretty quickly. There was somebody, set up like in a vacant lot, trying to sell a car, on.
They're not supposed to.
I know they weren't, so, and I mentioned it to them, but, just have them be on the lookout. I mean, it's not, everything isn't for sale in the city.
So what I've got for the March work session right now, it's only 2 items. Review the strategic plan and discuss the park grant.
Correct. Plus whatever else you'll add. And I guess.
Well, I'm not gonna add much of anything. These were things that we've been percolating, we're trying to get rid of, so, if someone else has something, let us know. We've got a month.
Okay.
Almost, yeah, more than a month.
Well, I think Steve's gonna come back with more information on the system, the ALPR system, so I don't know if you wanna put that on now or just wait till he's ready, but that seems like that'll be the third item.
Yeah, I'll talk to him and find out.
But the strategic plan and that grant is gonna be a big discussion, so, whatever else you need to move around on, but I wanna keep enough time. We actually finished in 3 hours, but probably thanks to Glenn stopping on the strategic plan, because that probably would have been some more time.
Yeah, because I got pages to talk about on that. And
I wanted to ask about
I-
Harrison
I mean-
Avenue, but June has a question.
I'm not reading your lips. Time one,
session, we never said what time.
6 o'clock,
6.
always 6.
Jody, we need to schedule something so we can have
Okay,
a chat,
okay,
actually about that, plus where we're at with the stormwater.
okay. We'll
So you were
I'll
out
call
of
you in the
town.
morning. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, sounds
so I'm trying to catch up with you.
sounds good.
Patty, one for the regular sessions, and we'll hopefully get the information, but Lynn and I went and finally had that meeting with Tom Washburn today and the county people. They owe us some follow-up information, and I've asked that we have it in time for the next council meeting so that it can be presented to the citizens and to the council. So if you put it on tentatively, and Lynn and I will both know if he's presented it, and if not, we'll beat him up. But we can present it anyway, just based on what we had today. But we had a fairly productive meeting.
No.
Do we have anything else?
Yes, I'd like
Okay, Mark?
Hey, Glenn, back in November, I think you asked, what some priorities? I'll give you the list of priorities.
That was for code enforcement, yes, yeah. Yeah, you were the only one that gave me something from that.
So,
I've got the,
discuss any of them, or if you want to just, not now, but I mean, at the next,
we don't want to discuss them now, because I don't even have them in front of me, so I don't even remember what they were.
Can we open that back up? I know you did ask for that, and I know I didn't submit anything, and it sounds like not too many other people did besides Mark, but can we open that back up for any priorities and maybe? we could have that? Yeah, just send us a reminder.
Yeah, I'll have Patty send it to you.
How long has it been since we did the code review? 2 years now?
Well, it would be, no, it was a year.
Because one of the final aspects of that was we were supposed to revisit it like a year later to see what we missed or if there were loopholes still open or whatever. And along with the sign thing, it may be time to revisit the whole process.
Yeah, we did that in the fall of 18. And then we sent that updated flyer out to all the residents in December of 18.
I mean, that's what you were trying to do, right? But that's what Lynn was trying to do.
See if you've got any other things you want to change,
Remember,
or thoughts.
so.
Do we have anything else? Motion to adjourn, anyone?
Moved.
Second? Favor? Aye. Opposed? Everyone have a good night. We're standing adjourned.